Good evening and welcome to our June 9th council meeting. We have and please turn off your cell phones if you have one. Roll call. We have a full council. And if you will stand, say the pledge. I'll lead the pledge and the invocation remains standing. Councilwoman Brantner will lead it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Creator, as we come together this evening, we would like to give thanks for allowing us to all gather together. We ask a special blessing to be sent out over the Bingham family and the Baldwin family as they try to maneuver through the hard days to come ahead of them. Please send them patience and love and let them know that they are loved by the entire community. We ask thee to help us heal as we go throughout the next few days and weeks and allow our love to be felt by their families. Heavenly Creator, we ask thee to allow us to make decisions tonight based upon the best outcomes for our citizens, and that we may work together with integrity and honesty and do what's right for the community. We say these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Excuse me. Okay. Then we'll move on to item number 5. Citizen comments on agenda items? None. Citizen comments on non-agenda items?
I just want to check with the crowd, Mayor. I did have a phone call of a gentleman said that he might be a few minutes late. He wanted to address the council. I don't know if he's here. Oh,
Here.
there he is. Yeah, go ahead and fill it out, and then you can give it to me afterwards.
Please. And state your name and your address, please. Thank you.
Hello, Councilman, Mayor Omega, and everyone. I just wanted to kind of introduce myself. I just moved to Southern Arizona. My name's Peter Poblete. I work for an environmental company. I kind of got started doing some environmental work in Peru, and then I wanted to do that kind of here in our home state of Arizona. So I just wanted to kind of introduce myself. I'll probably be sending you guys an email just a little bit about our company. We deal with like water, wastewater, and energy efficiencies. We like to partner with a lot of local towns and cities to try and see if we can save you money, and kind of anything in that sort of nature. So I just wanted to come and say hello and introduce myself and everything. And yeah, I'll fill this out. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much. Okay, then we'll move on to item number 7. This is Chief Alva will be presenting a new officer to us tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just like to present to you, introduce to you our newest officer, Jedrick Chavez. Jedrick graduated the Police Academy about 2 weeks ago. Just hit our field training portion of his new hire induction. So Jedrick is a local resident, come to us, graduate from Safford High School. So we just want to bring him, introduce him. We needed to up the height. So, but no, he's done a great job for us. Did a great job in the academy. He's even already volunteered for our teen academy, which we just completed last week. So good interpersonal skills, and it's always good to have local residents that we were able to send to the academy. So I'd like to introduce them and welcome.
We sure thank you.
Yep.
Welcome.
Would he like to say anything to us? Sorry.
I just want to say I'm excited to start working. It was a long process, and I got a little bit more to go. But I'm excited to get going, learn from the senior officers, and make the city of Safford that much safer.
We sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, then we'll go on to item 1, the comprehensive Emergency Management Plan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council again. Tonight with me, I have Amy Mall from All Hands Consulting. Amy's been working with us and her staff, well, with all of our staff as well, to revise and review our emergency management plan. I don't know if you've seen our emergency management plan. It was a bit outdated, so we wanted to get it updated to our standards and make it a comprehensive plan. She's going to give you a short presentation on the the workings of that they've done for our plan, and throughout the week we're going to have exercises. Tomorrow we have an introduction to the Emergency Operations Center, the Emergency Operations Plan, and on Thursday we actually have a tabletop exercise. So with that, I will introduce Amy Mall with All Hands Consulting.
Are we good? I'm a little short. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As your police chief said, my name is Amy Mall, and I'm with All Hands Consulting. You selected us to help you with your emergency management planning. When we were originally hired, you were looking to update a plan for response. And what I want to highlight just on this title slide is what we were able to do within the same budget is give you a comprehensive plan that not only addresses response, but what do we do before and what do we do after? And what can we do all the time so that the probability of bad things happening is lower and the impacts aren't as bad and we can recover more quickly. So for the slide here, I simply want to focus your attention on that word comprehensive because it's a really important component of this project. The other thing I want to point out is the picture in the lower right-hand corner, which you probably all take for granted and you drive by all the time. So for someone coming into your town to see literally in cement your vision that this is a great, great place to live, work, and visit. So you're looking at the whole community right when people come into your city. And to me, that was, no pun intended, a very good sign. So let me tell you about the team. I tend to use the word we as a pronoun, and when I use that, I mean everybody who is involved in this process. Up at the top, you can see the All Hands Consulting team, myself, and my colleagues, Rick Lavala and Stephen Davis, who are in the back. And together with management that we have back at the home office, a team of 4 has brought you about 100 years of emergency management experience. We could not do anything anywhere without the people who live there and work there to tell us how their community functions and how they want it to be any different. So we formed a planning team for this comprehensive emergency management plan, and it was composed of representatives from most of your city departments and those that could represent other departments, as well as what we're calling on the right-hand side, support organizations. Support organizations are all of those other members of your community that make your community thrive, make it more resilient to either acute stresses, say like a fire, or more chronic stresses like your economy. All of these other support organizations are a network with your city to make your emergency management program the best it can be. So we brought everybody together, and what's critical too is that with your city departments, we aligned their normal functioning, their technical expertise, and their resources to how they could be applied differently during emergencies. So next slide, B. As I mentioned on the very first slide, I wanted you to think about that word comprehensive. Here's an example image of what we call the emergency management cycle. It's not something that happens at one time. It's going on all the time. In this image, you see a star, and that represents when something happens. It's probably something we didn't expect. It might have come with warning, or it might have come right away. And the first thing we need to do is respond. So how do we organize all of those city departments, as well as all of your support organizations, to respond to whatever it is? That star could represent something very simple, like a fire, with it being resolved within hours, or that star could be something that devastates your city and may take you years to recover from. The way we wrote this plan, it covers all of that. It it flexes and contracts depending on your need. Within response, we also identified a critical need that you had that we were able to fill within the project, which was establishing an actual city emergency operations center, a centralized location where when something really bad happens and you need to bring people together, especially coordinating with outside support agent organizations like the state or federal government, you need a place to work and a system to support that activity. And during this project, we established that for you. So that's something that you all also have now that you didn't have before. Moving on from response, as you can imagine, recovery can be very simple if it's a short-term disaster, or it could take a long time. And so in your plan, we've built out how you would recover in the short term, in the intermediate term, and the long term, which takes you from days all the way out to years. And what's lovely is that you have a general plan that your long-term recovery can connect to. And so we've worked with planning and community development to make sure that that happens. So you're making full use of the plans that you already have and that they all connect. Okay. As a result, you now have on your city SharePoint site about 350 pages of material. And it's broken down into all of these topics that are listed here. As you can imagine, many of them align directly with some of your departments. So for example, the first part that we broke this entire issue down to, direction and control, who's going to manage emergencies? And so that particular, what we call emergency function, is the responsibility of your city manager, because that's his normal role. Now he's stepping into it slightly differently in an emergency. EF2 is communications and information systems. You have a fantastic IT department, and they're able to spin up communications either on site where an emergency happens or where people are say, in your emergency operations center, trying to manage that. So you can just keep going down this list and envision how it matches up with many of your departments already. There are some that don't match cleanly, especially because small cities like yours often don't have some departments, like you don't have a public health department, right? So public health is managed by your assistant city manager, who then acts as a conduit to connect you to public health resources of your support organizations, if that makes sense. So these are all the 22 items we broke down, and they're separate files. I see people in the audience who are responsible for these. During this process, we also gave people new responsibilities. So your police chief, as the emergency management coordinator, has many roles now that he didn't before this project. And now your departments have responsibilities for maintaining their sections of this plan. They're on SharePoint, so they're living, and they can be updated anytime so that they're ready for use. And going back to close the circle, feeding into long-term recovery and also preparedness. Preparedness before things happen is critical. What you're doing now by developing a plan is preparedness. Other things that contribute to preparedness are things like grants you get for infrastructure improvements, your building and zoning codes, how you communicate with the public and educate them about personal preparedness and resources. All of those types of things are also covered in your plan. Lastly, we included mitigation. Mitigation is anything you do to try to reduce probability or severity of something bad happening. And we've woven that all the way through the whole cycle. How can we mitigate in preparedness? How can we make our community stronger so when something happens, it's not as bad? When we're responding, how can we do it so that we're not making things worse? When we're recovering, are there things that we can do at the same time simultaneously as recovering from this incident that would strengthen the community in the long run? And so, again, comprehensive. That's what you have now. And I would say that having worked all over the country, you have some really significant advantages here, and especially the talent of your team and the way they work together. Working with you folks for a year, I've never heard, that's not my job, I've always heard, what do we need to do? And that in itself just speaks volumes. So I'm very appreciative to your police chief and all of the people that have contributed to this project to make it what it is. And I think that you're in a very different place now and a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Do we have any questions? Personally, I'd just like to give Amy and her team a lot of credit. Like she said, we've worked together for the better part over the last year, meeting every week. Not just me, but the rest of the department heads. And every time we have a problem or a setback or we need some clarification, we've always been, they've been so responsive to us. So it's been really good working with them. So thank you, Amy, and your team.
Thank you. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and close the regular meeting and reconvene into a Board of Adjustment. Item number 9. The Board of Adjustment variance request, a public hearing. So now we are the Board of Adjustments. Item number 1, public hearing for the forest right variance request, parcel 103-07-017B. It's for Mr. Wright. Variance request 17.12.130.B.1 and 2, Graham County, parcel 103-07-17B.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a variance request by Mr. Wright for the Board of Adjustment to approve a variance request to Section 17.12.130B1. And B, if you could please scroll down to the map that is the site plan. Unfortunately, my internet quit working just now. Strategic goals are growth and development. Planning and Community Development Department is in receipt of a variance application from Mr. Wright. The applicant is requesting a variance to the paving standards and requests that a private road be used to access 3 parcels. Mr. Wright has worked with staff to discuss the issues pertaining to this lot. You'll notice in analysis section 17.12.130B1, where said private road shall not be less than 30 feet in width and shall be paved to minimum city standards. And number 2, where access to a public road for 3 or more residents is to be provided by way of a private road, all standards and requirements for subdivisions as contained in this code shall apply. The next section that you will notice is on page 2 of 4 of your staff report. A variance shall not be authorized unless the board finds sufficient evidence of the 4 findings. Number 1, having to adhere strictly to the letter of this title will cause the applicant to have to pave 30 feet of access that will never connect to other streets. The canal to the north blocks extension of the roadway, and it will not be used by anyone except occupants of these lots. Number 2, the lots were created originally when these properties were intended for commercial use. The zoning was not established for commercial use, and the lot is too large for economical construction of 1 home. The residents in the adjacent neighborhood have expressed opposition to commercial or multifamily development on the lot at previous public meetings. Thank you. The map shown on the wall is the proposed 3-lot split. Number 3, the granting of the variance is essential to allow 3 10,000 square foot lots to be established in this R110 zone without causing costs that make the construction prohibitively expensive. Number 4, the applicant purchased the lot and did not create this subdivision. Recommended action, it is staff's recommendation that the Board of Adjustment grant a variance from zoning ordinance section 17.12.130, finding that it meets the evidence required in section 17.88.040C as stated by staff. Your attachments are the application and the proposed site plan. With that, I will stand for questions.
Just a clarification for me, Jamie. In the past, when you've read those 4 things, you've read us what the requirements are, as opposed to your findings of those requirements. I don't ever remember us having one that met any of them, and you're saying this has met all 4.
Yes, sir. Mayor and Councilman Hemphill, I believe that in this case, this does meet all of the requirements for a variance and that the applicant has met all four required findings. And when he was looking at this property, staff has had various meetings with him, Public Works, Utilities, and if this variance does not get approved by the council, he can still do 2 homes and split
Right.
it into 2.
And you don't have to meet all 4, correct?
You do, yes.
It
All
is
4
all
are
4.
required,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Thank you.
And, and this is on the north-south end, Vista, Montana?
Yes, this is the north side of Montana Way. So that subdivision is directly to the east of this parcel. You'll see on the map that Montana Vista Estates Phase 1 is directly adjacent to this.
And the road's behind it, near the canal?
Yes, that's on the other side of the canal, yes.
What if the surface is not paved, what is it?
I believe Mr. Henry is here. I believe they'll be requiring a hard surface, and he can give you those specifications.
I'm just not wanting that dust to go right in somebody's backyard that
Correct,
really doesn't want them there anyway.
correct. So it would be hard surfaced.
What exactly is that?
Mr. Henry, would you like to give some examples of choices?
Mayor, Council, that's a good question. Our code states hard surfaced. We've recommended chip seal, millings, compacted. It'll be a private road maintained by those residents, so it'll be up to them to keep the surface maintained.
Mayor Ortega, I just want to announce to the public that it is in a public hearing right now if anyone wants to make a comment.
Does anybody in the public care to make a comment? Please.
Mr. Jones, could you please go up to the podium? It won't pick up your voice if you're not at the podium.
Well, I'm dressed. I know it's gonna be a meeting. I thought it was gonna be like a little, a little side room or something. I just got off work. Sorry about that. I'm just kind of ignorant to the map.
No, but, give us-
Where are they looking at? What variants are they wanting?
Mr. Jones, just for the record, would you state your full name and address, please?
Shane Jones, 2119 South First Avenue, Safford.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm just looking, what variants are they looking at? I don't know. I'm not reading the map right. Can someone go up there and point it out?
Yes, sir. So you'll see that on the right is Montana Vista Estates Phase 1. And to the north
Is
is,
that Chris Angles, the Angles subdivision is?
yes. To the north is the drainage ditch on the angled property line. Yes. And you'll see that drainage easement for
That's the
Graveyard
canal?
Wash. Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
And split 1 that you see there is where the current 2-story home is being constructed. And you'll see on the left, labeled on your map, is US Highway 191. And then you'll see on the south, you have Montana Way, which is the entrance into Montana Vista.
How is this impacting my property though is what I'm asking?
What was your address again, sir?
2119 South First Avenue.
The only thing is you will see it when you drive by. And so you've received a notice because you're within 300 feet of the subject property.
He's asking what the variance is. It's to
Yes.
not pave the driveway rather than
Correct.
make him pave it.
So this area right there, between the dotted line and Montana Vista.
No,
to the
you're right.
That will be a private drive to access those 3 parcels, and it will.
That's on the south side of the canal?
Yes. And it will dead end at the canal, at that home that's being constructed currently.
And they're gonna add 2 more homes next to the one that's being built already.
If approved, yes. That's what they're requesting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Jamie, do our sanitation vehicles have to use that road too?
They will be collecting the garbage at that utility easement down there. They'll be walking their cans down to the utility easement on the south of the property. You'll see it labeled as 8-foot public utility easement.
That's where our vehicles will collect.
Mhm.
Okay.
And one of the reasons that this configuration was looked into is because there's a right turn lane on Montana Way. And if the home is addressed off Montana Way, then traffic could interfere with that right turn lane.
I think we had somebody else that wanted to speak. So just give us your name and your address, please.
No, they're just gonna pick it up.
My name is Dennis Stacy. My address is 2260 South Twilight Avenue. The shed that's being built is directly behind my property. That building will probably reduce the value of my home. It's already obstructing our view. The road that they're talking about, how wide does that road have to be?
Yes, sir, you'll see that the 30-foot easement is the width of the road, and then the pavement will run down the middle. The hard surfacing will run down the middle. And that will be 24 feet of hard surfacing.
So if the other two homes are built, my understanding is they're single-story buildings, not a two-story building like the shed is. With that road, is there enough room for people to park in the proposed 2 new structures? And that is really going to block, those 2 new structures are really going to block my access in my backyard. I don't think anybody in this room would like a 2-story house or shed, I call it, built in their backyard. It's going to hurt the value. If we resell our home someday, it will hurt us financially because of that structure that just is going in. And I'm strongly opposed to this thing. As far as safety, that a 24-foot road or whatever it is, hard surface, I have concerns about where their vehicles are going to park. The electrical on the corner of that building, that last home up there on the north end, there's an electrical box. And from what I understand, that was not approved. It's not to standard. So that needs to be checked out by the city council. I'm opposed to rezoning this deal. Totally opposed. And I think if some of my neighbors were not working tonight, they would be here in opposition to this too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any?
Jamie, just to clarify before we move on, the only thing before us is the variance, right? None of the structures on the properties or any zoning, that's all been taken care of or will be?
Correct, Mayor Ortega and Councilman Hemphill. This property is currently one parcel that is over 30,000 square feet. It is currently zoned R110 residential zoning. So the home, the 2-story home that is currently being constructed on the parcel is a completely allowed by right development. This is not a zone change at all. It is a variance. By right, they can split this into 2 lots and have 2 properties accessed off this private drive. They're just asking for the 3 because they have enough property to build 3 10,000 square foot lots with a single family home that will include the 2 required parking spaces on those lots.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I think Mr. Cook probably picked up that there might be an issue Wise, and he'll probably go check it out.
Yes, Mayor Ortega and Vice Mayor Lopez. We've actually had several site visits on this property, and there is a current single-family home being constructed. So any electrical is currently being inspected by our building inspectors, our senior building inspector, and the required utilities.
So would this road meet the code for like our fire trucks to get in there, emergency vehicles that they're gonna need to go in there at some point? Is it wide enough for them to get in, turn around, and get back out?
Yes, Mayor Ortega, Councilwoman Brantner, this has been reviewed by both the previous fire chief and the current fire chief. There's also in the Graveyard Wash area, there's a road that runs along that on that angular access on the north. So there will also be fire hydrant access, so it has been reviewed, yes. And the width of the access easement is still 30 feet. It's just the pavement they're asking to reduce.
This is a public hearing. Any more comments from the public?
Mayor, if I may, the applicant is here also if you do have questions about the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Item number 3, forest right variance request approval or denial.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is the request regarding the public hearing that we just held for the Board of Adjustment to approve or deny a variance to Section 17.12.130B1 and 2 for Graham County Parcel 1030717B. Property is zoned R110. This will allow the applicant to access 3 homes off of a private road and reduce the hard surfacing requirement to 24 feet. With that, I will stand for questions.
And they will maintain, they will maintain upkeep of the road?
Yes, Mayor and Vice Mayor, it will be private and it will be their responsibility.
Is there any chance of it being turned over to the city?
Mayor Ortega, that would not be in the foreseeable future. The city would have to accept it, and it really can't connect anywhere north because of the Graveyard Wash required easement.
Anybody else?
I want to say doesn't deal with this, so.
It's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve the forest right variance request.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the forest right variance request. All in favor? Opposed? Did you need a roll call or anything like that, Pete?
I can say it for the record. So we have a 5-2 vote with Councilwoman Bratner and Councilman McGoy opposing.
Thank you. Then we'll go ahead and close the Board of Adjustment session and reconvene into a regular city council public hearing.
Mayor and Council, I believe that my internet has started working again. Let's see. Yes, so I'll be able to share this. Mayor and Council, this is a request to hold a public hearing for the proposed rezoning of Graham County Parcel 104-35136L. The rezone request is from the R110 Single Family Residential District to the C3 Light Commercial District. Strategic goals are growth and development to pursue infill opportunities. Background, the Planning and Community Development Department is in receipt of a rezone application from Dr. James Hewish for Graham County Parcel 104-35136L. You'll see that on the map on the wall. You will notice that 20th Avenue is to the east, Relation borders the property to the south, and there is an adjacent C3 medical office. The property is currently undeveloped. They are requesting that it be rezoned to C3 so that a medical office can be constructed on the property. You'll go through your packet and notice that there are the standard requirements for a zone change, and I will be available for questions if you have any. The applicant is also here this evening. Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended by a unanimous voice vote of 6-0 for the following two reasons. The property is located near other medical facilities within the medical corridor. And number two, the rezone will allow the commercial development of a vacant lot and promote infill development that aligns with the City of Safford general plan. In your packet, you have the Planning and Zoning written recommendation and the neighborhood meeting notes. As of this time, I have had no response from neighbors other than the gentleman who requested a fence be built between the existing residential properties, and that is a requirement of commercial property that is adjoining residential. With that, I will stand for questions.
Jamie, do you know where the exits on the property are going to be? Will they exit onto Relation or exit onto 20th?
Yes, Mayor and Councilwoman Brantner, more than likely they will exit onto Relation, and that will be something that the Development Committee and the engineers and architects work on. That would be the least turning impact if they do address it and enter and exit off of Relation.
Ma'am, you said more than likely they will exit through there. Can we, being that close to the intersection and corner, it'd be a lot safer if they did. I don't know that when you do the study or who else you talk to, I know you mentioned it, that they would lean on that would be a requirement that they come out there for safety reasons.
Yes, Mayor Ortega and Vice Mayor Lopez, we can add that as a requirement that they do enter and exit off of Relation.
That's my thought. I don't know about
That's a
the
good
rest of
point.
them.
I agree with you on that.
I think we should rely on the traffic engineers to decide what would be best, and that's why we zone it first and do that later. There might be a reason not to pull into that traffic light that way. I don't know. I can see a couple other ways to make it work too.
That
might-
would- I'm sorry.
They might be able to go into the parking lot next door and, I mean, there's all kinds of ways that it can go, and I just assume the traffic engineer decide that rather than us, because we don't know. what
Mr. Mayor, this is Bill Sims. I agree with, that's a site plan issue. I think tonight's zoning and let the site plan address those issues, not zoning.
So it is something that they will look into safety-wise.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't know if you can enter off of 20th and exit off Relation. That's possible too. So
Yes, Mayor and Vice Mayor. As you've seen in a lot of our presentations lately, the tremendous amount of engineering work that goes into these projects. And Mr. Henry and Mr. Elkins oversee the engineering, and they are very safety conscious, and they do a great job working with the companies that do these projects.
I think you said a true fact.
Anybody else? Anybody from the public have any comments? And if not, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and reconvene back into our regular meeting. Item number 13, ordinance number 1, ordinance number 025-007. It's the use rezone.
Yes, Mayor and Council, staff is requesting a first reading of ordinance 025-007, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, rezoning Graham County Assessors Parcel 104-35136L from the R110 Single Family Residential District to the C3 Light Commercial District. The applicant has held the required neighborhood meeting, and both the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council have held public hearings on this matter. The Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended approval. The zone change will allow for the construction of a medical office in the City of Safford Medical Corridor on a currently vacant lot. Your attachment is ordinance 25-007 for a first read.
It's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve the first read of ordinance O25-007.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 025-007. That's the first read. All in favor? Opposed?
This approves ordinance number 025-007, Hewish rezone, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, effectuating a map amendment, rezoning Graham County Assessor's parcel number 104-35-136L from City of Safford R1-10, Single Family Residential District to C3 Light Commercial District.
Thank you, B. Then we'll move on to item number 14, Resolution R25-020. It's appointment to the Southwest Public Power Agency and Board of Directors to appoint to, in other words, we have to make appointments. And the name of it, it's John Casella to represent us.
Representative as a member of the Southwest Public Power Agency Board of Directors. Additionally, to appoint Megan Grable of the law firm Osborne Maladin to serve as an alternate when necessary. City is a member of the Southwest Public Power Agency, known as SPA. SPA was formed to provide members with a mechanism to jointly manage and dispatch their power resources and pursue affordable power supply opportunities for the customers they serve. Pool members include irrigation and electrical districts, municipal and electric utilities, and tribal utilities. Staff recommends approval of the above-named appointments.
Anybody have any questions or?
This is mainly housekeeping.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution R25-020, appointing Manager Casella to the Board of Directors of SPA.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second to approve resolution R25-020. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
This approves resolution number R25-020, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, appointing John Casella as a designated director of the board of directors for the Southwest Public Power Agency and Megan Grable as the alternate to said board for Southwest Public Power Agency Incorporated.
Thank you. And we'll move on to number 2, resolution R25-016. That's the airport priority exclusive FBO.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request from Mayor and Council to adopt Resolution R25-016, creating a proprietary exclusive fixed base operator or FBO at the Safford Regional Airport. The strategic goals for this program are growth and development and financial management. On May 30th, 2025, following several months of negotiation with the city, Ponderosa Aviation ceased operations as the sole fixed base operator at the airport, and the city assumed operations of the FBO doing business as Salisbury Aviation. Moving forward, the city intends to serve as the sole full-service FBO at the airport, providing fuel and associated services to transient and based aircraft. The Federal Aviation Administration and FAA Advisory Circular 150-5190-6, exclusive rights at federally obligated airports, permits an airport sponsor, in this case the city, to establish themselves as the sole or proprietary exclusive provider of FBO services on their airport. Such a change is often made in order to diversify the airport's revenue streams and provide funding to move the airport towards self-sufficiency without increasing fees on users. Similar Arizona airports with proprietary exclusive FBOs include Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport, Show Low Airport, Casa Grande Airport, and Laughlin Bullhead Airport, to name a few. By establishing the city as the proprietary exclusive FBO on the airport, the city will greatly increase the airport's capacity to generate revenue, ensure affordable and reliable access to aviation fuel, and ensure a high standard of customer service is provided to all visitors transiting through the airport. And staff recommends that Mayor and Council adopt Resolution R25-016. And I will stand for questions.
Sir, in the resolution itself, R25-016, at the bottom, it makes reference to airport's minimum operating standards, section 6.1. it wasn't in here for me to read. I don't know that it complies with everything we've been talking about for months.
Yes, sir. So, Mayor Ortega, Vice Mayor Lopez, so we will be bringing an item to update the minimum operating standards. Currently, our minimum operating standards only call out full-service fixed-base operators at the airport. So currently, with this resolution, we are still in compliance because the city will be the only full-service fixed-based operator at the airport. As we discussed previously, there's another item on the table that I believe will be tabled for tonight to grant a limited FBO agreement. That limited FBO agreement will require us to go back into the minimum operating standards. We already have changes drafted. Essentially, there will be some reduced requirements for an operator that's a limited FBO at the airport.
Okay, sir, because we have a lot going on in that area. I just didn't want any surprises.
Yes, sir, absolutely. The goal of putting this in the resolution is just to clarify that we will be making this change here in the near future.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? If not, it's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution R25-016.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R25-016. All in favor? Opposed?
This approves resolution number R25-016, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, exercising its right to operate a proprietary exclusive fixed-based operator, FBO, at the Safford Regional Airport.
Okay, then we'll go to item 15, new business. Everybody have a chance to review the May 5th, 12th, 27th council meeting minutes? Any changes or? No?
Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes for May 5th, May 12th, and May 27th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of May 5th, 12th, and 27th council meeting. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, then we'll, number 2, final plan of development for El Mineral RV Park. Jamie?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. There is a map up on the screen that shows the project site and its location in the city of Safford. This property is not addressed at this current time. This is a request for Mayor and City Council to approve or deny the final plan of development submitted by Jesus Gonzalez for the El Minero RV Park. Strategic goals are growth and development. Background staff has been working with the applicant on the project beginning in 2024. The preliminary plan of development was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission on May 19th, 2025 by a unanimous voice vote of 6-0. Property is listed as Graham County parcel numbers 106-01002N, 106-01002R, and 106-01307. Property was rezoned to the Manufactured Home Development District in December of 2024. The City of Safford rezoning process was followed, including the required neighborhood meeting and public hearings. Property is currently undeveloped, and surrounding it are multifamily housing, C3 zoning, another travel trailer park, MHD zoning, commercial and multifamily housing, C1 and R2 zoning, and undeveloped MHD zoning. Next parts of your staff report, you'll see the criteria analysis. Staff has worked with the applicant using the procedure for large-scale development. The applicant and the engineers have attended pre-development conferences. A rezone was effective on January 8th. The required information has been submitted as required in section 1772040, and staff see no significant defects in the plans. You'll see the applicable general plan requirements and the large-scale development requirements. And then you'll see that there are extra requirements for travel trailer parks. You will also see the commission review that it was approved and that the development is consistent with the general plan. The development will constitute a living environment of sustained desirability and stability. Development will produce a volume of traffic beyond the capacity of the surrounding street system. Requirements for utilities, off-street parking, traffic circulation, and other public requirements will be met, and the design criteria and intent of this title shall be adequately complied with. Trailer parks are part of this special approval process. Staff is recommending that the City Council approve the final plan of development for the El Minero RV Park for parcels 106-01002N, 106-01002R, and 106-01307 for the following two reasons. Number one, the plan conforms to the approved preliminary plan of development. Number two, it meets all of the requirements in Section 1772.190 Travel Trailer Park specific standards. And if approved, pardon me, you can take that part out. It was already approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And attachments are Planning and Zoning Commission written approval for the preliminary plan of development and the site plan, which I do have pulled up on the screen if you have any specific questions. And the applicant and his project manager are here this evening if you do have questions for them. And I will stand for questions.
Does this require a wall around it?
Yes, and they will be building a wall around it. And you'll notice on the plans that that's notated.
And okay, I see the road there, the in and out.
Mhm.
Is this also one there?
That is the drainage basin. Yes, drainage and retention.
So mainly the entrance exit is on Golf Course Road.
Yes, there is a small exit there, but it's not the main entrance for trailers. That's for the office mostly. And Mr. Gonzalez and his project manager can answer those questions for you as well.
I just had the same safety concerns about right here as we did on the other one. That one is good, and again, we're still, Mr. Henry's in them's hands, I'm good to go.
Yes, yes, sir, and guests will use that main entrance. It's wider for trailers to turn in.
And the flagpole, I see a flagpole too.
No more questions or
Good, Mayor.
comments? It's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve the final plan of development for El Minero RV Park.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the final plan of development for the El Minero RV Park. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, then we'll move on. Thank you, Jamie. We'll move on to item number 3, City of Safford fleet purchase from Kempton Chevrolet.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Eric Bejarano, your Assistant City Manager. I bring this to you since the fleet is one of the departments in my purview. This is a request for Mayor and Council to authorize the purchase of 26 vehicles with Kempton Chevrolet in fiscal year 2026. Aligns with our strategic goals of financial management, infrastructure development and maintenance, and business relations and development. On May 12, 2025, Mayor and Council were presented with an overview of the current status of the City of Safford fleet. During the presentation, it was mentioned that almost 50 out of the 153 vehicles owned and operated by the city are beyond their useful life. The City of Safford Mayor and Council adopted the fleet policy. The fleet policy takes a responsible approach to vehicle management and replacement. This policy aims to systematically replace aging assets while aligning with budgetary constraints and operational priorities. Staff has worked with Kempton Chevrolet, a locally owned and operated dealership, to source additional vehicles for the City of Safford fleet. The Fleet Department seeks to replace 26 vehicles at a cost of $1,951,208.71, and these funds are currently in the fiscal year 2026 vehicle replacement budget. Kempton Chevrolet has access to fleet pricing that is competitive. The purchase price for the 26 vehicles, again, is $1,951,208.71. Kempton Chevrolet has offered its retail allotments when the fleet allotments are not sufficient in size to meet the city's ordering quantities. Kempton Chevrolet is located in Safford, and this will generate local sales tax for the city. Buying Chevrolet allows our fleet to be more uniform. This allows our fleet to specialize in one brand for repairs and parts and can be inventoried for one brand. Recommendation from staff is that Mayor and Council approve the, and I apologize for the typo, 7-year lease agreement with Kempton Chevrolet for 26 replacement vehicles in fiscal year 2026. That said, I'll stand by for any questions.
Sir, I'm not totally sure what you mean by, Kempton has offered its retail allotments when the fleet allotments are not sufficient in size to meet the city's ordering quantities.
Mayor and council, good question. So my understanding of that is if there's a vehicle on the lot and we've ordered a similar vehicle, they will allow the city to purchase that vehicle on the lot.
Well, yeah.
It's just another benefit of doing business local, sir.
And, but I like the thing, just as good or better in there, but I trust in you.
It's good to know.
Okay.
So we're not actually purchasing the vehicles, we'll be leasing them for the 7 years?
Mayor and council, that's a good question. I will invite our finance director, Mr. Bingham, to the podium to speak to that.
I knew I'd get an opportunity tonight. So yes, we have not actually found a finance company right now. Right now, we're just purchasing the vehicles. So we're getting the order in. They'll get the vehicles here. We have time for the next 6 months to figure out that. We did that item for intent to reimburse ourselves. So we have time to figure out the leasing. We intend to go into a 7-year lease. We haven't finalized anything with any bank. So we're still working on that.
But we know the price.
We do know the price, and that's what we'll be using the lease to reimburse ourselves for that price.
I just want to clarify because I saw there's about 8 police vehicles. Does that 1.9 million include the cost to the upgrades for the police vehicles?
Mayor and council, that price does include the upfitting charge for those police vehicles, yes.
Lights, everything. I mean, they're ready to go.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Who does the actual spec draw up on this? Like, police vehicles are different specs than other things. Who writes them up?
Mayor and council, it's a good question.
I could help you out there if you need.
I'll turn it over to Troy.
So the police vehicles were spec'd, the actual upfitting by the police chief with the state contract vendor is Pride out of Chandler, Arizona. They have the state contract for all public safety vehicles. He went and spec'd it when he picked up his vehicle from being upfitted at Pride. He spec'd out what a patrol vehicle would be, what a detective package would be, and I don't know if there was a third package, just those two. So he already has pricing for those, and those are locked in per state contract for the next 5 years.
Everybody get the shot at spec and writing up the specs for the type of vehicle they want?
So if it's their department, they come up with that spec, but for the most part, Clark does all the other specking. The police vehicles were specifically done by by police chief, and the fire vehicles are specifically done by the fire chief. But for the most part, Clark does everybody else's specking based on what their wants and wishes are, that when he interviews each department, what they need for their vehicles.
Okay, I had concern because with that other question I had, we would take what they had on the lot. So,
That is a rare, I don't know if the assistant city manager really covered. Most dealers will not give you from their retail allotment. They will only give you what they have on their fleet allotment. So if they run into a hard time, they just delay the vehicle. So the fact that Kempton is willing to do that for you is pretty special, because most dealers will tell you, I'm not going to give you my retail allotment. That's where I make my money at. So that's a very good deal.
Anybody else?
Mayor, I move that we approve the City of Safford fleet purchase from Kempton Chevrolet.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Safford fleet purchase from Kempton Chevrolet. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, then we'll move on to item number 4, purchase of AT Tornado Street Sweeper. Lance.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for Mayor and Council to approve the purchase of an A7 Tornado Street Sweeper from Schwartz Industries through Baylor Equipment. This would be a cooperative purchase using Sourcewell contract price. Strategic goal is financial management and infrastructure development and maintenance. The background analysis is the City of Safford Street Division currently has 2 street sweepers that are constantly being used throughout the year. The 2007 model sweeper was replaced in 2023, and the 2014 model is now the oldest and is the vehicle that this purchase would replace. The 2014 sweeper has outlived its useful life and has been an ongoing maintenance problem for quite a few years. Schwartz and Baylor have participated in multiple competitive procurements that have cooperative purchasing allotments available for smaller agencies like the City of Safford. Staff feels that the best and most advantageous pricing would be secured utilizing Sourcewell contract number 093021-SWZ. Cooperative procurement through Sourcewell complies with the City of Safford's purchasing policy. It is the intent of the city to cash fund this purchase using existing vehicle replacement funds in FY26. Staff recommends that the mayor and city council approve the purchase of an A7 Tornado street sweeper from Schwartz Industries through Baylor Equipment at the Sourcewell contract price of $354,174 with a 10% contingency for taxes, tariffs, price changes, and final modifications. Staff is also recommending the subsequent disposal of the 2014 Schwartz sweeper when the new vehicle arrives, either through trade-in or public auction. I stand for questions.
How long does it take to deliver the new one?
We're expecting on this sweeper to be around the end of the year, if we get it ordered in the next month.
Anybody else?
And you've spec'd it out.
Yeah, this is basically speccing out to match our existing sweepers. We've got two Schwartzes right now that we're happy with. They get used a lot and they get wore out, so we're just replacing them.
With the price and us giving you a 10% increase, have you gotten any estimates of what that tariff could hit with?
I don't see a tariff. I put that in there just in case. I don't see, if we sign get a PO, we really won't have a 10% increase. That's just to kind of cover if there was something that came up. But we have a quote right now that's good for, I believe, 60 days. That is the price. If we get them an approval, that will be the price. There will be no 10% increase. It just gives us a little bit of leeway if something drug out and something came up.
Anybody else? If not, it's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve the purchase of an A7 Tornado street sweeper.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of an A7 Tornado street sweeper. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Then we'll move on to item number 5, purchase of a Caterpillar D8 dozer.
Yes, Mayor, this is a request for mayor and council to approve the purchase of a 2025 Caterpillar D8 dozer from Empire Machinery. Strategic goals are financial management and infrastructure development and maintenance. The background on this is the landfill dozer is a machine that's used 6 days a week at the landfill and is a vital piece of equipment for landfill operations. The current machine is a 2008 Cat D7R that has been in service since November 2007 and has approximately 16,000 hours on it. The current machine is also slightly too small for the type of work that is required at the landfill, which is the reason staff is requesting a Caterpillar D8 dozer. Empire Machinery includes this piece of equipment as part of their Omnia Partners Cooperative Purchasing Agreement, RFP 212816-01, and staff feels that this is the best and most advantageous pricing. Cooperative procurement through Omnia Partners complies with the City of Safford's purchasing policy. It is the intent of the city to cash fund this purchase using existing vehicle replacement funds in FY26. Therefore, the recommendation is that mayor and council approve the purchase of the Cat D8 dozer from Empire Machinery at the Omnia Partners contract price of $1,162,473.95 with a 10% contingency for taxes, tariffs, price changes, and final modifications. Staff is also recommending the subsequent disposal of the 2008 D7 dozer when the new dozer arrives through trade-in or public auction. I stand for questions on this.
It's an action item.
Mayor, move that we purchase the Caterpillar D8 dozer.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to purchase the Caterpillar D8 dozer. All in favor? Opposed? Carries. Then we'll move on to item 6, purchase Molden asphalt oil distribution truck.
Yes, Mayor, this is a request for mayor and council to approve the purchase of a 2000 GA Malden asphalt distributor with Freightliner chassis, which is our asphalt boot truck from Freightliner of Arizona. This is a strategic goal, financial management, and infrastructure development and maintenance. And the background on this is the City of Safford Street Division. Its current oil distribution truck is a 1994 Freightliner with a 2008 Bearcat oil distribution body that is used every year for 2 to 3 months for pavement preservation. The truck and oil distribution body have outlived their useful life and are becoming more difficult to find parts for when breakdowns occur. Freightliner of Arizona includes this vehicle as part of Arizona State Contract CTR 069472, and staff feels that this is the best and most advantageous pricing. Cooperative procurement through state contract complies with the City of Safford's purchasing policy. It is the intent of the city to cash fund this purchase using existing vehicle replacement funds in FY26. Therefore, staff is recommending the mayor and council approve the purchase of a 2000 GA Malden asphalt distributor with Freightliner chassis from Freightliner of Arizona, at the state contract price of $316,472.25 with a 10% contingency for taxes, tariffs, price changes, and final modifications. Staff is also recommending the subsequent disposal of the 1994 Freightliner boot truck when the new vehicle arrives through trade-in or public auction. Just to clarify, the 2000 is the model, not the year. It's a 2025, but it's a 2000 GA is the model, so.
Oh, my question.
Move we buy a new boot truck.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the asphalt oil distribution truck. All in favor? Opposed?
It looked like it had a pretty handy clean-out feature on it this time around.
Yeah, the guys are pretty excited when
Yeah,
they saw the specs
Because you
on
use
there,
it
so.
seasonally, and that cleaning them rigs up is not easy. So I was glad to read that.
Thank you.
Move on to item number 7, Ford drum roper trailer purchase.
Mr. Cook, Mr. Henry broke us. You might as well sit down.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this request is for the Mayor and City Council to approve the purchase of a new Sherman and Riley PLW 200X 4-drum rope trailer from PB Loader with a Sourcewell contract ID number 080521-PBL. Strategic goals, infrastructure development, and maintenance. Background, City of Safford Electric Division currently does not have this equipment to pull in long runs of new conductor near existing energized conductors. With this piece of equipment and one more, the Electric Division will have the capability to install new aluminum conductor in place of the old outdated copper conductors. This will help our team perform different and work limit the need for the city to use contractors. The 4-drum puller is unlike any other currently on the market since the PLW 200X has a 360-degree rotating turret. This will allow the Electric Division to work in tight alleys and roadways without blocking all lanes of travel. The unit costs $211,987.98 plus applicable taxes and shipping to Safford. Staff has priced this unique piece of equipment through Sourcewell contract with PB Loader. Staff recommends that the Mayor and City Council authorize the Electric Division to use fiscal year 24-25 capital outlay equipment funds to purchase the Sherman and Riley PLW 200X 4-drum rope trailer from PB Loader through Sourcewell contract 080521-PBL at the price of $211,987.98 plus applicable taxes and freight. You'll see 2 attachments there. One's a picture of the piece of equipment and the other is the Sourcewell contract.
Any questions or comments?
Was this in the 24-25 budget?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Okay.
Yes, we've talked about this and set it up for over a year now. I know you'd like to have had it on Little Hollywood Road, but you have that conductor in already.
That is correct. The picture of this piece of equipment shows it galvanized, but we will be ordering it white in paint color. That way, if there's any damages or any welding repairs that need to be done, it can be covered with paint very easily.
Anybody else? It's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve a Ford drum rope trailer purchase.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Ford drum rope trailer purchase. All in favor? Opposed? number 8, Bull Will Tensioner Trailer.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This request is for the Mayor and City Council to approve the purchase of a new Sherman and Riley Bullwheel Tensioner Trailer, BWT 1424H from PB Loader with Sourcewell Contract ID number 080521-PBL. Strategic goal, infrastructure development and maintenance. The City of Safford Electric Division currently does not have the equipment to pull in runs of new conductor near existing energized conductors. With this piece of equipment and the 4-drum rope trailer, the Electric Division will have the capability to install new overhead aluminum conductors in place of the outdated copper conductors. This bullwheel tensioner is unique since it has an operator compartment on board to protect the operator from the hazards. This will allow the Electric Division to work safer and with less personal protective equipment. This unit costs $111,192.80 plus taxes and shipping to Safford. Staff has priced this unit using Sourcewell through PB Loader for the best pricing. Staff recommends that the Mayor and City Council authorize the City of Safford Electric Division to use fiscal year 24-25 capital outlay equipment funds to purchase the Sherman and Riley Bullwheel Tensioner 1424H Bullwheel through PB Loader with Sourcewell Contract 080521 PBL at a price of $111,192.80 plus tax and freight. And once again, on your attachments is the Sourcewell contract and a picture of the piece of equipment.
Any comments?
This is not something that's only going to work with aluminum wire, is it?
No, sir, Councilman McGoy. This will work with any conductor that we need to string overhead.
I keep having this thought that one of our local neighbors might just give us some copper and we'd put it back.
Yeah, we'll be best recycling that.
Will it help you retrieve?
This one will not, but the 4-drum rope trailer
Might as
will
well.
help to retrieve.
Because I don't know how much 6 you still have in the air.
I think there's, about a quarter of a mile probably.
That's all.
Yes, sir. There's a lot of number 2 and number 4 stranded though.
And we can sell that at a pretty good price.
Yes, sir, we can.
Anybody else? If not, it's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve the purchase of the Bullwheel Tensioner Trailer.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the Bull Will Tensioner Trailer. All in favor? Opposed? Carries. Next, we'll move on. Thank you. We'll move on to item 9, Airports Strategic Business Plan Award.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Quick point of clarification, this item is for the Airport Hangar Infrastructure Design Award. That was a typo in the agenda, but it is correct on the CCF. This is a request for Mayor and Council to approve the expenditure of $179,943 for the completion of designs for the Airport Hangar Infrastructure Project and Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, or DBE plan. The strategic goals are growth and development and financial management. As the airport continues to grow and welcome new tenants, the airport has reached capacity on the east side of the airport for space for general aviation hangars to be constructed. This project will consist of design of new taxi lanes and utility infrastructure to support the construction of up to 35 new box hangars. And just a point of clarification, upon finishing reading the CCF, I will show a map of the area in question. In May 2025, the Federal Aviation Administration issued grant number 3-04-0031-033-2025, which will cover 95% of the project cost, resulting in a local match of $4,499. The airport budgeted $150,000 for this project in the current CIP budget for FY 24-25. The addition of an FAA-required Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, or DBE plan, increased the overall project cost, and the FAA is increasing the grant by $30,000 to cover the cost of this additional work. This project represents a significant investment by the city and the FAA towards continued development of the airport. The construction of these taxi lanes and the associated utility infrastructure will open the airport up to continued development by commercial and non-commercial users. With the addition of the FAA-required DBE plan update, the overall project cost has increased by $30,000. However, due to an increase in the FAA grant funding percentage from 90 to 95% and the availability of an ADOT matching grant, The city will net savings of $2,206 in our local match portion. And below, we do have a budget breakdown showing the adjustment based on the additional cost and the additional grant amount available. Staff is recommending that mayor and city council authorize the airport manager to issue a purchase order to Dibble Engineers in an amount not to exceed $179,943 for planning and engineering services to complete the hangar infrastructure project design and DB plan update. Staff also recommends that the council authorize the airport manager to issue change orders to this PO not to exceed 10% of the project cost. If a change order to the grant is issued by the FAA, the purchase order will be issued under the terms of the airport's existing on-call agreement for engineering and planning services with Dibble Engineers dated June of 2024. And I will provide background on this project. So this project, as shown, will encompass a significant portion of the east side of the airport off of Taxiway Echo. The area shown there in dark gray is the development area. You'll see on the north side here we have the first set of existing T hangars directly off the taxiway that are currently being finished construction. The rest of this area will open up additional space for development of private hangars and hangars to be built by businesses or potentially private capital or other investors in the future. And as shown, we are currently out of space along Taxiway Echo to maintain sustainable development. So this will open up a significant new parcel of land for the airport, and it is primarily grant funded. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Anybody? Comments?
Airport manager, you can issue change orders, and we still can receive 10%. Okay, it reads, airport manager to issue change orders to this purchase order not to exceed 10% of the project cost if the change order to the grant is issued by the FFA. So if they make the changes, they will make up the difference?
Correct. Mayor Ortega, Vice Mayor Lopez, yes, that is correct. So in order for a change order to be issued on this project, since it's a grant-funded project, direction would have to come from the FAA first. A request would go to them, they would approve the change order, and then we would issue the change order to match since they're paying for the project. But they're paying for a vast majority.
Yeah, and they'd give us the money to do it. Okay.
Exactly.
Anybody else?
Mayor, I move that we approve the airport strategic business plan award as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the airport strategic business plan as presented. All in favor? Opposed?
For the clerk, do we need a point of clarification that it's for the hangar infrastructure project, not the strategic business plan, for the record?
I think you already stated it, so
Okay,
we're fine.
okay,
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. And we'll move on to item number 16, contracts and agreements. Number 1, Town of Pima Intergovernmental Agreement, asphalt zipper.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for Mayor and Council to approve the 5-year intergovernmental agreement between the City of Safford and the Town of Pima for the use of an asphalt zipper. This strategic goal is infrastructure development and maintenance. The City of Safford owns and operates utilities within the ADOT right-of-way. When repairs and installations are needed to be done and the asphalt is required to be cut, the city must mill 2 inches of asphalt 50 feet on each side of the cut and the entire width of the lane. These repairs require large equipment designed to pulverize the material to create a surface that will adhere to the new material. The average size the city would require is roughly 1,400 square feet and would take 4 hours to pulverize. This project is not enticing enough for out-of-town companies to come and perform work without inflated costs for mobilization fees. Staff has found that the agreement is beneficial for the City of Safford by having a local, cost-effective way to meet ADOT requirements for infrastructure repairs and installation. The City of Safford and the Town of Pima would enter into a 5-year agreement for the Town of Pima to provide services at a rate of $400 per hour. Staff recommends that the Mayor and City Council to approve the 5-year intergovernmental agreement between the City of Safford and the Town of Pima. There's also, in the compensation section of this agreement, there is a provision that we will go off the Western Region CPI the index, consumer price index, on an annual basis, so it will increase per year. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Can you clarify that? Because it looks like the way it's worded is whatever the CPI is, we're going to times that by 3. Is that just a 3-year average we're using, or can you clarify that portion?
So as far as the CPI, we would go to the town of Pima and we would go and price that out with them. And right now, if we were to get a company to come out and do that work, it would be roughly $9,000 or $8,000 for them to just mobilize here. At this cost, it would be $1,200 roughly for the 4 hours of work. So not to necessarily, I don't know if that answered your question, but we would go to the town of Pima and we would negotiate that, make sure that it wasn't inflated. And we could always get out of this contract as well if we felt that it was not beneficial for the city of Safford at that time.
I just meant where it says the annual usage fee times the 3-year percentage increase. So is that taking whatever increase? So if it increased 7% over the last 3 years, we're going to times that $400 an hour times 7% versus if inflation's only gone up 3% for the year?
Mayor Ortega and Councilwoman Brentner, I'd have to get back with you on that for clarification.
It looks like it's
This is
saying,
Bill Sims. This is Bill Sims. I didn't draft it. What I think it means is you're going to look at the increase over 3 years, and it's an artful way of saying it, and then you're going to multiply that increase times the price. I mean, when you read the formula at the end, that's what it says. You take the most recent, subtract out the 3 years. That will give you the increase. Divide it by the published 3 years prior. That'll give you the increase. So what they meant was be multiplied times the inflator. I haven't drafted it, but I think that's what it means. But we can confirm that if you want us to.
This is an action item again.
Mayor, I move we approve the Town of Pima intergovernmental agreement for the asphalt zipper.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Pima intergovernmental agreement. All in favor? Opposed? It carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, item number 2. Limited FBO agreement.
Mayor Ortega, we've asked if we can have that tabled. We'll bring it back. I don't believe we have an exact date. We're just still waiting for some confirmation from the other party.
Okay, then we'll go to item number 17, our 2026 to 2030 capital improvement plan adoption.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First item tonight is going to be the adoption of the fiscal year 2026-2030 capital improvement plan. The purpose tonight is to seek Council's approval of the FY 26-2030 capital improvement plan. The strategic goals for the capital improvement plan is that it was developed with multiple of the state's strategic goals, including infrastructure development and maintenance, financial management, and growth and development. The City Council reviewed staff's proposal for the 5-year CIP at work sessions in January. The CIP includes capital investments in general government, facilities, streets, parks, and our utilities. The draft $121 million CIP is funded using multiple sources, including general, grants, enterprise, HERF streets, and debt financing funds. The first year of the fiscal year 2026-2030 5-year capital improvement plan is $50.2 million, which includes the carryovers and adjustments from previous meetings. The adjustments that are mentioned include the upgrade or additional fire alarms to city facilities. That is a $70,000 carryover from previous year and $130,000 new in the current fiscal year. Another one is the update to outdoor golf security cameras. This is a new project to update and install security cameras at the golf course. There's a new cart barn as well at the golf course. A golf course tent wedding venue, a new project as well. There's updating the project costs for the East Valley Sanchez Road project. Updating the project costs for the East Lebanon Main project, and then updating the project cost estimates and moving to FY26 for the design of the septic receiving at the wastewater treatment plant. And finally, we added back in, after being taken out, the treatment plant district expansion. All of the amounts are listed in the CCNF. It is staff's recommendation that City Council approve the fiscal year 2026-2030 capital improvement plan as presented. As with every budgetary cycle, the first year's appropriations of the CIP are legally approved with the FY 25-26 budget. The remaining years provide the council with a blueprint of future capital projects for the purposes of long-term planning, which includes financing and support for the city's utility rates. You will see the FY 26-2030 capital plan, improvement plans project summary in your packet, as well as the presentation that I have. And for the purposes of brevity, I can go through the presentation, but the major changes are what I listed in the CCF. So if there are any questions on those projects, I can answer them, or we can go through the presentation.
So it's my understanding that the golf course decided to go and do this wedding venue off on their own. They started it. Why now is the city deciding to pay for their project that we were not approached by, we weren't asked, we didn't approve? This just came out of their idea.
Mayor, Councilwoman Brantner, that is partially true, yes, that they did go off and try to do this without consulting with us. As we visited the golf course recently, similar to all the facilities that we're looking at throughout the city, this was one of the things that we noticed was taking place at the golf course. In conversations with our golf course management, it has been determined that a wedding venue at the golf course would be an alternate source of revenue generation to help at the golf course. Currently, the golf course operates at a loss year to year. This would give an opportunity, a wedding venue would give an opportunity to bring that loss up to net zero for the golf course. Currently, when they do have wedding venues, they have to shut down a large portion of their operation to accommodate. This would allow for a wedding to take place at the same time as other normal operations. Unfortunately, yes, it did take place or started taking place outside. As we looked at it more comprehensively, and as we go forward with looking at our facilities more and more, things like this will hopefully not take place as much. We'll be able to kind of move with our management company out there to improve the golf course.
Some of these add-ons or brought back on are older, like 1706, 1806. But then there's some 26s and 25s. And now you're bringing them back and putting them on the budget?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, so the 26s are actually new projects in this current year, yeah. As you'll see, the 3 of the golf course ones are new projects, and those are the 26s. The upgrade or the additional fire alarms to city facilities, that was a project that was introduced last year. In my compiling of the CIP, I didn't move it over a year, and so I changed that in the current year. And then you are correct that there is a 17 and an 18 on there. The East Valley Sanchez Road project is the 17. That is our largest project in the CIP, and it grew because of new cost estimates. So we continue to move on that project, although it is at a slow pace. There is progress being made from what I hear in our water department, and it's very similar with the East Lebanon Main. Those 2 projects are actually tied together through the USDA grant, and then the portion of that of Lebanon being completed, Sanchez Road is contingent on Lebanon being completed. So those 2 have a relationship through the grant process. And when we talk about the funding source for East Valley Sanchez Road, the 2 grants that were awarded for East Lebanon Main, the amount that isn't spent for East Lebanon Main will go towards the Sanchez Road project.
The treatment plant district expansion, it's a 25. You're waking it up?
That was a project proposed last year to begin talks with our community, our fellow community
Yeah.
partners on coming together and working to get more recharge at our treatment facility. This is a very large project, yes. The idea behind this project would be that it would be fully grant funded. So we put it back in because of the possibility of it still being there. We had taken it out originally because we felt like the possibility wasn't there, but as we talked with our rate consultants, they advised us that we should have it in our CIP if it was something that we were planning on doing, so that if we did receive grant funds and if we were moving towards that, that we should include it.
Well, we could get the money, but if we got nowhere to go, we'll cross that later, huh?
And you'll see with that project, it is in the out years. Although it is a 25 project, it was brought to us in 25, or that's when the genesis of the project was last year was the initiation of that project. It has been moved out into out years. There are no current costs in fiscal year 26 or any carryover costs. There are planning costs in fiscal year 27, 28, 29, and then 30 that you'll see some of the construction costs. So that is a work in progress project that won't see any costs in this upcoming fiscal year, but it is there for us to look at it and to plan for the future and associate possibly rates with that going forward.
Some of these we see we are going to do them. How's this affect our budget? Because they're new, they're adjustments. And we had already had a balanced budget, and I thought we had a balanced budget. Now we've added this.
So we still have a balanced budget with these projects in there. The carryover in the fiscal year the upgraded and additional fire alarms being in there, we still have it balanced. There was a rebudget of certain projects in golf course for the security cameras in the current year. And then some of these other projects are actually in out years. You'll see that the wedding venue and I believe the golf cart barn are in an out year as well. So yeah, I can just pull the presentation up.
So there's no department this year that's going to change because we've added these.
No, most of these projects that we're talking about were in out years.
Yeah, so the golf cart barns are in FY '27 in terms of design, with FY '28 for funding. And the golf course tent, which is the additional wedding venue, is FY '27 design and then 90,000. But I think really the golf course wedding venue is really a tent. So it's something that we did in addition to what they were working on to expand their facility, because we want to see, instead of building an addition onto the building, we want to use a tent to see, do we have different events out there without expending a great deal of funding? So it allows us to kind of phase it, if you will, and use the tent to see what kind of response we get before we go do any built environment stuff. So again, the barns won't even be in design until 27, with build out in 28, and then the tent itself, again, I don't know why there's some additional money. It might be a slab maybe to put it on, but then 90,000 in FY '28, so it won't affect your 26 appropriation level.
Because it's not that much. Dang, I said that? But the cameras are going to be put up pretty quick. So that's going to come out of our pocket soon.
The cameras are split over 3 years too, so it's 11,000 in fiscal year 26, and then 11,000 in 27, then 11,000 in 28. So the only portion that would affect the budget tonight would be the 11,000 in fiscal year 26.
Okay, so that's where it affects it now.
Correct.
Where is that being pulled from? We have to make a concession somewhere to keep it balanced.
So when we balanced the budget, we had 50,000 that was going into reserves. So around balance, right? If it was completely zero, that would be completely balanced. But we were able to put 50,000 into reserves. So as these come into play, that draws closer and closer. One of the things that just happened, though, was that we became the FBO at the airport, and with us pumping fuel now, there is a revenue generation source there. the number that I have in the budget tonight is we will be generating $200,000 more worth of revenue. Now, I balanced the budget without that $200,000 being in place, but just know going into the budget item tonight that the budget's still balanced with an additional $200,000 of revenue from the projection on the fuel purchases at the airport. So it was balanced prior to the FBO, us becoming the FBO at the airport. It was down towards 34,000. It started at 50,000 when we first started the budget, balancing the budget talks. So with these new items in the CIP, it got down to 34,000, and then with the FBO, us becoming the FBO, now that number is more around a $230,000 going into reserves.
Want to make sure that I understand so the golf course tent will not be up until 2028. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that venue will not be usable until 2028.
Correct.
Not sure I realize that it was unfortunate that they started the project without coming in consulting us. I like that we are out there now and we have our presence there now. But this is a revenue generating opportunity. And so I kind of wonder if we, move that up and allow us to get that up quicker and look at, what kind of revenue are we going to get with that instead of waiting out years. I don't know.
Because before you've stated, like you want them to be open longer and stuff like
Right.
that and generate
Right.
more revenue, have more presence.
Yes.
And that's why you're talking about this getting moved up to help that.
Right.
So I
Right.
understood you.
Anything
All
we
right.
can do to help them generate revenue, let's do it. If they can stay open a little longer, make sure that they're staying open to the times that they are saying they're going to stay open until, and also, serving meals until that time and providing good service out there. And I think having another opportunity for another venue for people, for our community is another great opportunity. And
If they're digging already, they feel they're ready.
right? Are they?
Yeah.
If
I
they
don't-
are,
I don't know.
I
We'll
just
find
think
out.
if there's possibility for revenue to be generated, we should be considering that.
I don't disagree with you. I just hope the monies are there.
I think that we even, and Matthew, maybe you can clarify, but I think we've even budgeted pretty low as far as our general fund revenue, sales tax, anticipating that there was possible changes going to happen, and then we found out that those changes are not going to happen. And I believe, we were very conservative with our revenue projections in the general fund.
Mayor, Councilmember Flores, yes, that is correct. Recall that we did budget at last year's budget revenue. And fortunately for Safford, we grew in revenue generation. We didn't stay the same. And the numbers that I am seeing coming in through our local sales tax is growing. It's not shrinking or maintaining flat. And so that number that we did budget to, that balanced budget number, is very, very conservative in my opinion. Just year over year, I think we will be, so projected 25 will be probably $600,000 more than what we budgeted for fiscal year 25. So that's at the end of this current fiscal year. And if we continue to grow, you're looking at around a $1.2 million. We budgeted at 18 million, and you're looking at getting 19.3 at the end of next fiscal year. So that's $1.2 million that we are just going to be putting into reserve at the end of next year because we've balanced to that 18 million. So that is correct. We were very, very conservative with that. And the legislation, the food tax remained intact this year. And so that we're not going to see that loss of 1.8 million was what we were initially looking at the beginning of this budget cycle.
You're not trying to bump up the tentative either?
Clarification on bump up.
Raise it.
Raise the total tentative. Currently, what I have tonight, what I will present tonight, council's decision whether or not they want to go with what I have presented. If they want to make changes,
the estimate that I've given you guys is what we decided on. We're going to go forward on what we're balancing. Council can decide if they want to change that. This tentative budget tonight, and we can get there after the CIP if we want to talk about that more, is the cap of what we can go to. And so we can talk about that more during the tentative budget.
But it's possibly a yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Mayor Ortega, Councilwoman Flores, so there's a list of ads that we had shown in the presentation to come that are items that are not included. And I think that if we wanted to, one of the recommendations we would be making would be to use reserves to do those. I think the simplest way to do this would be to add this to that list of reserve usage. So you would have the appropriation to lift the tentative, and then you could pay for it with existing reserves if you wanted to, as opposed to like say changing your revenue estimate, which at this time would be inconsequential because we're so low, but I think it would be neater if we added it to those existing lists and then did it that way, if council chose.
And I will say just for council, and then like Matthew said, we'd be putting back into that fund balance next year when obviously the actuals are received.
Correct, because they're coming in the current year far ahead of what we budgeted. So you're already adding more money back into your reserves, regardless of what you do here. And so,
Okay.
again, it's 6 of one, half dozen of
Okay.
So you'd still like to see the tent as soon as possible?
I would, yes.
I think it'd be a good idea. I agree there.
Clarify that the venue out there is going to be used. They've already got an event booked, I think, for this summer. They've already asked for a special events trailer for chairs, tables. I think the tent would add on to their venue. But their venue, what they've done already is they've done it at no cost to the city whatsoever. But I'm sure they're planning on booking events throughout the summer. So
That's in the back of the facility. This tent would be up on the actual clubhouse.
the venue you're talking about,
Yeah,
that they're
they would be
building without
separate.
permission is being used currently.
So there's two different areas then.
Well, what they have done apparently, well, when we went out there, was that they had gone out behind the clubhouse and they had cleared some areas under a mesquite tree and they had built what I would call crude amenities, in my opinion, out of wood, where they would apparently have some activities out there. The structure we're talking about would be on the clubhouse itself. Is that correct? Yeah, yeah.
Yes, the venue that we're talking about we would be relocating the putting green right next to the clubhouse was the plan. And then that would be where we would erect the structure for the venue.
And we already own the tent. This is the city of Safford's used event tent. We'd just be pouring a slab and doing a glass garage door on the side of the clubhouse so you could exit out to that slab. So this is a simple change in the structure just to try to get a simple wedding venue outside of the bar area.
And of course, it could be used for anything. It wouldn't have to be just a wedding. It could be any kind of event that you wanted to have. And the reason that we wanted to look at this was because our discussions with golf course management was that when they had these type of events, it would impact their ability to keep the golf course going. So by having this additional amenity, you can have the event and the golf course running, hence the increase in revenue.
Does this cover the cost of moving that green also, since you're talking about having to move it?
That is not part of this number. Is it?
It is,
Moving the
yeah.
green? Well, I stand corrected.
And
It is part of it.
the cost of moving that green, I believe, would be minimal on them. It would be just when they overseed and replant seed, they would just be relocating where they cut the grass.
Anybody else? Any more comments? Very good discussion.
And I'm good with the majority of the CIP. The majority of it, I don't know what questions we still have. If so, I'd like to hear them, of course.
Mayor, I move that we approve the fiscal year 2026 to 2030 capital improvement plan.
Second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the 2026, that's 2030 capital improvement plan. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. You ready for the next one?
We voted.
He has the next item for the tentative.
Oh, okay. We're ready.
Okay, perfect. This next item is the request for the mayor and council to approve Resolution R-25-019, which adopts the City of Safford's fiscal year 25-26 tentative budget. This includes all the strategic goals in our budget. A little background on this, Arizona revised statute requires the city to prepare and adopt a balanced budget annually for each fund on or before the third Monday in July. City staff has been developing the fiscal year 26 budget since late August of last year to ensure the city meets all elements of Arizona revised statute, city code, internal policies, and generally acceptable budget practices. The city council is scheduled to approve the final fiscal year 26 budget on, we will be changing that to July due to the run dates on the newspaper. So the first meeting in July, not June 23rd. Over the past several months, staff have presented to council the various elements of the fiscal year 26 budget, including the following: our strategic goals, our capital improvement plan, which was just approved, the departmental budgets, and then the revenue and fund balance forecasts. Upon City Council's approval of the fiscal year 26 tentative budget, the approved budget documents will be published in a general circulation newspaper for 2 weeks per Arizona revised statutes. In addition, the city will publish a notice that includes the date, place, and time of the combined final budget to be held on June, we're talking July now, 2025. Staff will be requesting adoption of the final property tax levy at the council meeting held on July 14th as well. The fiscal year 26 tentative budget sets a maximum expenditure for the year at $116 million and some change. The maximum expenditure includes $10 million of contingencies spread across all funds and $16 million in grant funds from multiple sources. The City Council may adopt a final budget lower than the tentative, but not higher. The tentative budget is available for review in 2 forms within this packet. First, Exhibit A to the resolution captures the tentative budget in forms provided by the Arizona Auditor General and is required by statute. Second, Exhibit C provides a summary and detail pages of each department, including a department's capital budget. The tentative budget includes all items previously approved or directed by the City Council at previous regular meetings and work sessions. The City Council reviewed the staff's proposal for the 5-year CIP at work sessions in January. The CIP includes capital investments in general government, facilities, streets, parks, and utilities. The draft $121 million CIP is funded using multiple sources. Council has had several discussions during the budget process for which staff is seeking direction tonight. Items below are currently included in the tentative budget unless otherwise indicated. The positions included are a reclass of a patrol officer to a patrol sergeant, the reclass of IT support specialist 1 to IT support specialist 2, reclass of IT systems administrator to senior IT systems administrator, the reclass of a library technician to a teen program coordinator, reclass of lead water resource operator to utilities data analyst, reclass of gas compliance coordinator to lead gas technician. Compensation adjustments include the fire chief compensation adjustment, water wage increase at $4 an hour for water resource operators 1, 2, and lead water resource operators, and then a $2 per hour for water department supervisor positions. Stuff that is not included, as noted, are an additional 1% COLA, capital projects for signage at the library, entrance improvements at the golf course, and then facility maintenance improvements. It is our recommendation that Council approves Resolution R-25-019, a resolution adopting the City of Safford's fiscal year 26 tentative budget. And I have a presentation on this one.
We did have questions on some of these.
Good.
one was the fire chief compensation adjustment. Still wasn't totally clear what that encompassed.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, I do have what that encompasses right here. So what the fire chief compensation adjustments are. So what I had budgeted versus the changes that are being made would be a net zero to the budget. But what would change is his compensation in terms of how the money is coming or how the city is paying him. So currently or going forward, the fire chief would be a part-time salaried employee, and that part-time salary would be $36,000. And then he would also get call-out pay, which is non-LoSAP call-out. So the compensation he received from the call-out would be up to $3,000. And then he would be on a 457B plan for his retirement,
Which is what it is now.
which is what it currently is.
Okay. And that's it. There's no,
That is it, yes.
that's what it is now.
The 457B, the call-out pay and the salary, the part-time salary are new things. Currently, the previous fire chief was not part-time salary. They received a stipend, $30,000 stipend. And then there was budgeted call-out pay for the fire chief as well. But going forward, the new pay for the fire chief would be that he would be a part-time salary, and then he would receive up to $3,000 in call-out pay that was non-LoSAP. And this I believe this was at the advice of the attorney for the fire pension plan, correct? Multiple attorneys.
So I kind of thought when we were talking about it that what was wanted was if he gets called out like the other firemen, they get call-out pay. And that's what was being asked in this situation too. And this is what we're settling on, no $3,000 for call-out for the year.
Correct.
That could be, I don't know if it's more or less. I don't know how many call-outs there are, but I don't know if it's fair or not. I don't know them statistics.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, so in budgeting the volunteer firefighters' pay in general, the process in which we've found to calculate that can be difficult, but how I budget their pay going into the next year is based off of their calls in the last year. So that call-out pay will fluctuate based on how many calls they receive in a particular year. One year they could receive a lot of calls, and so going forward into the next year, we would have to budget to the previous year to accommodate how many we think we're going to get. But typically, as I looked at the past couple of years, it remained pretty average in terms of what they received and pretty flat. There wasn't any growth or decrease in their call volume.
There's no cap.
There is no cap. He's just giving you, for a budgetary purpose, he budgeted $3,000 in call-out pay, but they will get paid on how many calls they actually do.
Okay. And now there was also talk about basing the salary, tying it to COLA, which I'm not for.
So yes, it is. Our recommendation here is for it to receive COLA but not merit. So COLA pay, like every other employee, it's any other employee in the city of Safford, per our regulations, receives COLA pay. This would be part of that because they are a salaried part-time employee, which is different than the previous firefighter.
So it's required
I'd have to get my HR director up here for that.
because it was being talked about. We've never had I don't know if we've never had, but we formally did not have the fire chief under COLA. They would negotiate their salary ever so often. The one before probably hadn't got a raise for 5 years prior. And then when it did happen, it was quite a nice bump. So we've been pretty good on that area.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So you're correct. COLA was not part of the fire chief's pay previously. It was our understanding that that is a current request and simply to
match it to our other employees, being that this person is now going to be a part-time salaried employee. So just to be consistent with other employees and to keep that wage current is the intent.
Why are we moving a volunteer position into a part-time employee? Why are we switching that? So I can be clear.
We went back and forth on this idea quite a bit, but essentially it's at the guidance of our, well, so it's kind of complicated. Yeah, it's been called a volunteer position in the past, but it is essentially a paid employee because of that stipend. So even though it was being called a volunteer fire chief position, it really wasn't a volunteer position because it was getting a stipend. So this individual is getting compensation. So really they are an employee. And we felt it was best after seeking legal guidance to classify them as a part-time salaried employee based on what the position entails as far as job duties. And essentially we're classifying it correctly now as far as what the position has been in the past.
So if there's a change from now into the future, it'll no longer be them electing their own chief because they're now becoming a salaried employee that will come to HR to hire now?
No, there's no changes to how this person is being elected. So as far as the fire rules and regulations, that process is not changing. It's just an employment classification.
So,
Danielle,
go ahead.
oh, Danielle, isn't this also tied to the pension and the way that the employee
Yes,
has to be classified?
correct.
Really why it's starting to look, so Mayor Ortega, Councilwoman Brantner. So actually, some time ago, initiated by Councilwoman Flores, we had to look at the way that the fire chief was compensated relative to the retirement plan that all the other firefighters were in. So they were already getting $30,000 a year as a salary. The assistant gets $5 at this point. That was a council decision that was increased a few years ago. In the process of making the adjustments, you can't have a employee at that level of pay be in the LoSAP plan, which is the length of service plan that is a retirement plan that the firefighters use. So one of the conversations that we had with the Fire Pension Board was, how do we fix this? Well, the first thing you couldn't do was change the current fire chief's pay. He was already getting a salary. He was still in LoSAP, so we could not remove based on a constitutional provision. You can't roll it back. So the conversation became, what does the fire chief look like going forward? So the idea of giving this type of compensation was to try to compensate them at the same level that the previous fire chief was getting compensated at, but it couldn't be the same structure. So this is the new structure, giving basically a similar level of compensation, to which we then added the idea of saying, if someone is being compensated at this level and now is a part-time employee, essentially, we are going to request that we add the COLA in at a minimum so that they can at least keep moving forward and keep up with the cost of living, as do the other employees. So it was a transition from a previous structure for which the previous fire chief was required to stay in, to a new structure moving forward. So now you will talk about the fire chief's salary every year, which we really didn't do before. Now, the code allows council to alter compensation. It doesn't require it. It allows it to happen, though. And so what we're doing is we're making a recommendation that this be the structure, part of which would be to revisit and provide that COLA every year.
Just for clarification, the COLA doesn't apply to the per call pay, just
Correct.
just the salary
Just the
part.
salary, yes. And again, if we recall, there were other amounts of money that were being provided for stipends for vehicles and phones and things and training. They were getting money for training. So this was a way for us to standardize the pay and also bring it back in front of council every year so you could then assess it and decide. It's still your decision. But we thought that this, given the position, was a fair structure going forward because you couldn't use the old one.
And what was the the dollar amount that we had to get above to qualify? It was 35,000 and something, wasn't it?
Yeah, 35,000 in.
Like 698, so we.
We just rounded up. I
Right.
mean,
Right,
we-
so
not a-
not to violate federal law, I think it qualified them as part-time at that point.
Right. Mhm.
Right, because we struggled, what do you call it? Is it a stipend, is it a salary? And so, given the legal advice we got, this is where we ended up.
And so the 3,000's not a minimum and not a maximum. It's
And it can't be because it depends on how many times they get called out.
Based on prior year call-outs
So
for
it's
the
an
fire
average.
chief, that was around what a fire chief got called out and what it would be.
Is that probably the average of all the firemen? I mean, that's
Right.
about what they each cost.
Yeah, correct. Correct, Councilman McGoy.
And did we get the vehicle and the phone straightened out?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
hopefully you took it out of, but, well, it was still in there, I believe in the last meeting where we had questions, you had raised that issue. It should have been removed, but it became part of how we compensated this fire chief, at least trying to come back and meet that overall level of compensation.
Anybody else?
So on all these items, you're gonna need a idea from all of us individually.
Well,
On
the
each
idea
item?
was that we had Mayor Ortega, Vice Mayor Lopez. The idea was that we knew there was conversation,
Mhm.
right? And so the idea behind the layout, so you could either pick a category and say, we have no issues with positions, we're going to go with all the reclasses, or a council member could ask that a position be removed. And so then you would vote on that action, and then when we adopted the tentative, because all of the ones are already in there except those that have noted to be not included. So if you wanted to remove something, you could make a motion to amend and remove a position, or you could make a motion to change the water wage compensation. So it gave you the ability to be more granular going forward, so we could get clarity from council on each one of them.
Okay, well, I knew there was talk to be had about the fire chief.
Yes.
I think there's talk to be had about the 1% COLA. I think there's talk to be had about the $4 an hour for the water, because we've had conversation about that in the past. So I didn't know where we were gonna decide on all of that. I've
So
heard-
I believe that if you wanted to be systematic, we could look at this list, because this is the list. And again, there can be other things as well. We felt that given the conversations on these items, these would be ones council would want to discuss. So if you would like to, you can move systematically through that list and make motions as to what you would like to do.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, what you wanna do, because you always say I mess up the.
No, I think
I
your
messed it up.
questions, no, your questions are valid, and again, that's why it's laid out. So for example, you said there's conversation on the fire chief, we just had it. And given all the details that we've laid out on that item, you could make a motion to say, since that has already been included, if you wanted it to come out, the motion would be to take it out. Otherwise, you need no action because it's already in.
And I hate to clarify on top of clarify, but on some, the motion will have to be to include them because they're not currently in.
Correct.
And so we'll do that each one. Sometimes the
Correct.
motion is to remove and sometimes the motion will be to add.
That is correct, Councilman Hemphill. And again, the ones that say not included would be the ones that you would motion to put in. And again, just to be clear, so for example, the 1% COLA, I put that in there only because it came up in a meeting. It didn't mean you had to or didn't have to do it. I just, again, wanted to make sure that since that was a subject of conversation, that we provided you with that opportunity. It doesn't mean you have to do it. So my recommendation, again, I think, because we have talked a great deal about the budget, and I believe unless there are some other items, and there can be, if you would like to go through this list and have a conversation about these items, to include those that are not included, those that say not included in tentative, to remove some that are included, you could do that as well. If they're already in there and you say, hey, positions are fine, there's no discussion, we just move on, it's already in there. So again, Mayor Ortega, I would turn it over to you and say, if you want to go through this list and have a discussion on each of these. You don't have to, but I think it just gives you an opportunity as a council to clarify what you want in and what you want out.
Okay. We'll start with the positions. I'll just go ahead and go down. If anybody wants to, discuss it, we can.
Yes, if you would like to amend, and the amendments in this category, since all are included, would be to remove. So you could either say, is there any question on any of them in the
Right.
category? And if there are, then any council member could make a motion to remove any of those items. You have a vote. Based on that vote, you then go with, if, let's say you removed a position, that would be part of the amended tentative budget, would be the removal of that position.
Okay, there's 6 items, 6 positions listed there. Anybody have anything they want to remove or whatever in the 6 positions?
Do we need a motion to do this, or we just, only if there's a piece
Only
of
if
it
there's
we
an
don't want?
alteration.
Okay.
So again, say in the positions, they're already in there. So if you wanted to take one out, you would need a motion, a second. And then what we would do is document all of them and then adopt the budget based on whatever passed that altered what's in here. So again, if you took something out and it passed, we would pass with that amendment. If you added something in, we would pass with that amendment.
And just wanted to clarify, so if council does take out or add in any of these, you'll pass the tentative budget with the amendment. You will see the final budget with these changes. What tonight does, again, is this just sets the expenditure maximum. So if council decides that they want to include everything in here, I'd bring you back a final budget that is based off of what the decision tonight at an expenditure maximum. So tonight's decision only sets the expenditure maximum. It doesn't pass your final budget. You can pass a tentative budget tonight at a certain amount and come back with the final budget and decide that you don't want to include some of the stuff that has been put tonight. So
That's what it can only go down.
it can only go down. It can't go up through at the final budget.
So again, the question right now on the floor is there any positions, since all are included, that you would like to remove? Is there a motion to remove any of the positions? No? Okay, so the positions are unchanged and are already in, which brings us to compensation, the first of which is the fire chief compensation adjustment. And I know there's potentially some discussion here. We just laid out what that looks like. So again, Mayor, I turn it over to you and say, is there any
Is that-
adjustments
is
that
that
are requested?
Good
'Cause
with everybody. The fire chief compensation adjustment?
That included the COLA, correct? His COLA?
No, that was just the position.
there's no COLA this year,
Not the first year, but.
correct? It would be going forward. And again, that can be something that you want to discuss.
So he wouldn't get the COLA this year, but if we pass it like it is, in future years, he will get COLA like all the other employees.
Yes.
And I'd just like to point out, we say he and she because there's a person attached to those jobs, but really what we're deciding is, does the fire chief
Yes.
position get COLA? That's always a little hang up for me, is we make it kind of personal, like it's these people in these spots. It's these positions we're talking about.
Correct.
Good point. Did you have something?
I'm good
Okay.
on the fire chief. We
How
talked
about
about
the-
it already.
Okay, how about
So just for clarification, there is no changes to
Right.
the fire chief compensation as we've laid it out.
What
Okay.
we just talked about.
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
okay, then the water wage increase at $4 an hour? How does everybody feel about that one?
Good with it. I'm as well. And it's in there, so we just, if somebody wants to make a motion to amend,
It would be to alter the amount. from
Right.
4 to something
Or
else, to
remove it.
0,
Yep.
or whatever.
I do want to make a comment about it. I think in the earlier stages of the budget process, I was probably more opposed to this item, but I think Councilman Henfield had brought up something that was pretty significant and really stuck with me, and that's that we need quality employees in the water department. It is a service that it is so important that we're providing a great service for our, citizens. So I am not opposed to keeping it as is in the budget.
And then that was added, that additional 1% COLA.
And it is not in. So in order to put it in, you would have to act to amend to put it in.
And just to have some numbers on that, so an additional 1% COLA for all funds is $118,000 across all funds. And then that's $53,000 in the general fund. I think I rounded aggressively in previous presentations to 60,000, but it's around 53,000 for the general fund. And that's per 1%.
And what are those same numbers for the COLA that,
The current COLA that is in the budget is at 2.5%.
and what are the numbers that go with that?
Good question. I believe it's
2.5 times that.
2.5 times.
292 across all funds.
So this is an additional 1%.
That would be an additional per percent. So that's 1%. You could do the math. 2% is 2 times, 3% is 3 times, half a percent is half.
And your number at 53,000 is general fund only with EREs?
Correct.
So it includes benefits for general fund at 53,000. That's not all funds. So your COLA would be, what was the total number for all funds?
118
118.
for all funds,
But
including
again,
EREs.
it wouldn't affect your general fund because the other ones would be in the other funds. So it's just the 53 that affects the general.
That's on top of the already 200 and something thousand.
Correct.
So the 2.5% you have as a COLA, this would make it 3.5.
Can I muddy the water? I'm understanding that we're going off the Western CPU. what is
Western
it?
Urban CPI.
Okay. But yet, I hear on the news that over the last 3 years, that went up 18%. How does our 2.5% a year translate into 18% over 3 years? I mean, are we actually following that? Or is there inflation only right between our 2 fiscal years and we're not catching it?
Mayor Ortega, Councilman McGoy, I think we began to use the Western Urban CPI after it came off a peak. So I believe there was a year where it peaked at like 8%. It was the following year where we had our first increase, which I believe was last year, wasn't it? Yeah, so by the time we got there, 3% was the Western Urban CPI. This year it's 2.5, I believe. Because it's only our second year of doing COLA merit.
I just don't feel like we've caught up with the truth.
And that's one of the reasons that I put it in, right? Because I know that there was that sentiment. So I'm trying to give you options. I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm saying there are other options, and it's important. So let's take that year when the Western Urban CPI was 8%. And we say, council, that we're going to give raises based on the COLA and merit. You're probably not going to give an 8% raise in 1 year just on COLA. So the COLA number is where you begin to have your discussion because it gives us an industry standard point every year that's consistent where you can have a conversation. You can either adopt it at that COLA level, you could adopt it at a lower level or a higher level. Again, if the COLA comes in at 8%, chances are pretty good we're probably not going to give 8%. That being said, once inflation comes down, and I think to your point, Councilman, you can add a little bit in above the COLA to start to make up some of the ground you had lost in previous years. Again, you don't have to do it, but again, it gives you a logical point to have a discussion on how you set your COLA.
Didn't we just bring all of their pays up last year?
I believe 2 years ago, we did a salary survey in which we adjusted the salary ranges based on the market and then placed people within those ranges based on experience.
And,
That might have caught a little bit, sorry, Mr. Lopez.
and,
Yep.
and that's,
Go ahead.
And that's where we were trying to play catch up last year too. And that's why we went into it and we didn't really have a set structure. We talked and talked about it and we tried to implement some kind of structure in it this year with the COLA. And I think we got to let it work. And I did hear Mr. McGoy at the beginning of the budget said, well, the COLA that you're saying now isn't keeping up. So that's when I had mentioned too about, well, the 1%, let's see it in 1% increments. And so now we're seeing it, and I'm for leaving the 1% in.
We would have to add. It is.
Add.
Yes. And that's the
Well, now you tricked
53,000,
me.
which was the original imbalance. What's that?
Now you tricked me.
Well, it says not included. So just for the record.
Okay, so if we can
And I
handle
was,
it,
I was planning on moving to amend to add, but
Either
I understand the discussion.
Oh.
I think when we did the market analysis and bumped everything, that might have caught a little bit of the COLA that we had missed. If we were starting COLA brand new this year, how far would you go back to catch it? I mean, there's only, there's only so much you can do, but I'm definitely for adding 1%.
Mayor, Council, I will point out too, with how we are planning, there will be another market adjustment we plan on doing it every 3 years. So if there is a large COLA that we're missing, the market adjustment will find that the next time we do it. And if it's every 3 years, then hopefully that will make it so that those discrepancies don't become as large over however many years prior to that market adjustment. There were adjustments that were made.
And this ad could be made without any changes to the revenue estimate.
This ad could be included in our balanced budget without going and revisiting what council feels is a proper revenue estimate for the budget. It currently would be budget if we add 1%. If we got above 1%, it might get closer to, for all intents and purposes, it would be, you could add 2% and then you'd still be okay at a balanced budget across all funds.
you still have positive waves, so,
Still have positive waves?
yeah.
I'm very confident in the revenue estimate that we have currently, and how revenues are currently coming in, and we're very, very conservative with our revenue estimate coming into this budget.
Very.
I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, but I just said it.
So everybody feels comfortable with the additional 1%.
So could we have a motion and a vote to
Mayor, I
amend
move
to
that
add-
we amend the tentative budget to add an additional 1% COLA.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to add an additional 1% to the COLA. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
So now we're on to the capital, to which we would add moving, so you've got signage at the library, entrance improvements for the golf course, facility maintenance improvements, and we would add, based on the previous discussion, 100,000 for the amenities, the tent at the golf course to that list of not included, because it's in your CIP, but it's in the out year, so you would have to add it technically for this year.
And like I say, the entrance on the, now this would be like for next year, the improvements, maintenance improvements and all that. That's what we're
Correct.
talking
So
about,
the
yeah.
numbers on these are the signage to the library. Initial quotes came in just under 40,000, so that would be a $40,000 ad. Entrance improvements at the golf course, a swag of 100,000 for that, and then a facility maintenance improvements we have 100,000, and I would believe that would be an ongoing 100,000 for capital improvements year over year.
And then number 4 would be the tent.
Correct. And then number 4 would be moving the full cost of the tent project at the golf course, which is a total of 100,000, and move that into fiscal year 26.
You still got that one?
I do. I actually agree with the 100,000 for the golf course and the 100,000 for the facility maintenance improvements. Those are 2 easy yeses for me.
Second.
Well, yeah, and I'm inclined to motion to approve all of them, but the 2 on the golf course, even the signage at the golf course, I think if we're kind of pushing that direction, some instant improvement, an appearance of improvement, I think would help.
What are the entrance improvements? What are we talking about? Because that's very vague.
Well, they are, and we would have to do a design, Mayor Ortega, Councilwoman Brantner. So we would have to come back with a design for those. When we looked at the entrance to the golf course, there are things like barbed wire fencing on the right-hand side. There's all kinds of dirt. There's some really nice signage that's off on the side that we thought maybe we could even move that out in front in the middle of the road and not have to buy a sign. So we don't have a complete idea of what they would be, but when we did go to do that project, we would bring it back to you and show you those designs, and it would be subject to your approval. So we don't have specifics right now.
If you'd like me to argue against myself, though, until we know
Please do.
what kind of resolution we come up with, it would make sense to wait on signage, but not the tent.
I'd like to
Build
see
it
us
in there.
get the place secure, get the cart barns fixed, I mean, that sign needs to come after the sprinkler system works right. That's not a priority to me.
Well,
If somebody here wants to go to the golf course, they'll find it.
It's not just signage, though. It's like,
Oh, but
okay.
You're
Okay.
talking more about the entrance, the appearance of it.
Yes, and that's kind of, because it has a very kind of austere, it's what greets you on your way in. And again, and I think Councilman McGoy's comments are well taken. We are pushing. We're trying to do some things that are working on the aesthetic. We're trying to raise the bar, right? the assistant city manager has been spending a lot of time at the golf course. And again, things like the cameras and security are things that will be taken care of, for sure. We're working on that as well. We are trying to work, just like we're working on blight and signage in the town, we're trying to make our facilities be well-maintained and look well-maintained to be enticing so that you can do things with charges. So, but again, I understand where
I
you're
just
coming
feel
from.
like, and I don't know why I gotta justify it, but I just feel like if somebody gets there, they're already there. You're not drawing them in. If that was out on the highway, yeah, we need something to draw them in. But if they already showed up, do you think they're gonna turn around and leave because our sign's not sufficient?
I don't know, but will they come back?
Depends on depends on whether the irrigation system works.
So why don't we vote on this one? Because it seems like there's a lot of feelings on this one. Some of the other ones I think are more solid. So can we vote to see if we want to add the golf court entranceway signage? Can we have a motion on that one? Just because it seems like there's not 100% support, so.
That's the second one listed, right?
I'll make a motion that we include it, but it does not, the purchase does not happen until we see plans.
Okay, well, there's your motion, which is, sorry.
She has said that before. I think she said it like she was gonna give you the money, but you couldn't spend it until she told you.
Correct, which is fair.
Well, and that speaks to what,
And I would-
I'm
yeah.
for it, but we need to wait until we know what to put on the sign.
Well, I have to have the money to do that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
so we're just budgeting it is all we're doing.
Right, so I would have to bring it back for approval.
Right, so I would second the,
No, that's talking about the entrance improvement, and we would see plans on that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so see, I'm
And is
with
that separate from the
And a
signs?
price.
It
You're
is.
talking entrance, but is that separate
It
from the
is
sign?
the entrance to which a sign may be an addition, but there's already one out there, but it's sitting off on the side. So the idea was, and I believe the Public Works Director had a really good idea, which is, why don't we move it out into the middle, and then you could kind of come in on either side, come in one side and out the other. It's a beautiful sign, so it would save you money on signage, and then you would be working on things like fencing. I call it Checkpoint Charlie. That's what it looks like to me. And there's like white gates and barbed wire. So signage would probably be something we would reutilize existing signage, but it would be beautification of the entranceway would be the best way to describe it. So you have a motion and a second to include it, subject to approval.
Yes, okay. All in favor of what I call it, the entrance improvement at the golf course? All
Yes.
in favor? Opposed? Not that be?
So it passed 4-3.
Yes.
Okay. So far of this group, that is the only one that we have made a motion and voted on. So you still have library signage and facility maintenance, and then the tents at the golf course. Those are the three that remain.
And we can discuss it after, Mayor, if you'd like, but I'll move to amend the tentative budget to include the tent structure for the golf course.
Second.
So we have a motion to include the tent structure at the golf course.
To include the tent structure at the golf course.
Yes.
That's the motion, okay.
All in
So that
favor?
means a floor, right?
Yeah, there's a slab, and then you'd put your tent on it. Plus, it also includes alterations to the one, I don't know, north-facing wall, I believe, and the putting green.
We have a motion and a second, right? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, carries.
That one was easy, thank you.
And so now you've got library signage, and you also have the facilities maintenance, which again is kind of part of a long-term strategy we've had, and we've been visiting the Public Works Director and some of his facilities guys, Finance Director. I've missed the last couple, but we've been literally doing walkthroughs on every one of the facilities to identify what needs each facility has and then trying to prioritize those. Public Works Director will be working on compiling those into one document. I can tell you there's a lot more need than $100,000, but this gets us started.
This is on all of our structures, not the golf course.
Correct. This is all city facilities.
So,
Because it's, go ahead.
so is there an improvement on the golf course outside of the sign and the tent? I mean, is
These are the
place
two.
is a disaster? Are we gonna? Is
These
that
are
where
the,
this is going?
there are other items at the golf course. So there's a kitchen renovation, but we're still looking at fixing the roof. And so there are several items that are on there that would be in addition to the two you just passed. So there's the existing CIP already addressing some of those needs at the golf course, including the cameras, right? So, and I think there also, we added to the CIP, the golf cart barns are in there, but in the out years.
I want to make the motion that we include it with the stipulation that it gets spent on the golf course the first time or two until we get up to speed, but I don't want to get past staff. They know what we really need.
This item is for facilities maintenance, generic.
I think Mayor Councilman McGoy, I think once you see the comprehensive plan that's brought by the Public Works Director, that will give council more of an idea of where that money in their eyes should go to improving. There's quite a bit out there that like the manager said, $100,000 is a start. It's not all of what needs to be taken care of. But this is a kind of, it will be an ongoing, every year, money set aside for these improvements. Kind of the golf course ones, there were already projects that we had in our CIP. And as we looked at the golf course, when we did this inspection of the facilities, some of those were things that needed to be taken care of. Other ones, kind of, we looked at it more comprehensively and decided that there were projects that didn't need to happen out there, and that there were other ways that we needed to shift the funds at the golf course, as you saw with some of the new projects. Some of the regular maintenance stuff, though, is included in that facility maintenance improvement stuff that don't quantify as a over 5,000 capital improvement project. So some of that stuff might take place with those funds. But the lower hanging fruit on the big projects was what you guys see in your CIP. So you kind of see all that, some of that already. You don't see other facilities in the CIP that are having those projects already. So there already is kind of I understand there's a desired interest more to improve the golf course, and as it becomes more and more of a talking point.
Well, it's got a lot of attention here lately because of our burglary, and so it's been brought to the forefront. And we may have just as big a problems elsewhere. I don't know. That's why I don't want to say it has to be spent there, but I just.
And I think most of the golf course, ironically enough, in the past has always had its own area where the CIP addressed it. And so if you recall, some of the conversations that we've had over the last year and a half have been this idea of life cycle maintenance. So this facilities maintenance number is a reflection of the life cycle maintenance number. I mean, even, and quite frankly, we didn't talk about it, but when Mr. Cook got up here and he showed you those two pieces of equipment, they really are also part of that in the sense that you are now increasing a level of service in electric where you're going to do lines in-house and not contract it out. So the irony here, I guess, is that the golf course has always had a CIP and maintenance has been done at some level, whereas the facilities maintenance life cycle hasn't had quite the attention. And so hence we're adding this in. Now, this number will be bigger in future years, guaranteed, because you have a lot. Obviously, we've had several issues, and Vice Mayor Lopez had brought some issues up regarding some of our facilities in the past. This number will grow. So of all these, this will be one where this will be an ongoing cost of doing business and will likely grow.
For all facilities.
Correct.
I make a motion, we add the facility maintenance improvements.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to include the facility maintenance improvement. All in favor? Opposed?
Mayor, I'll jump us ahead quick and I'm going to move to amend the tentative budget for signage at the library with the same stipulation that Councilwoman Flores made, that we approve it. I think it speaks to what Councilman McGoy said as well. I think in the case of the library, better signage and would attract people based on the location. But again, we do need to kind of see how that plays out a little bit too before we know exactly what we're putting on.
And
on
we're
the signage.
in design, and again, the library director has been involved in looking at signage and murals. Again, things that improve the aesthetic overall.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, then we have a motion and a second to approve this.
The motion is to mirror what we did with the other.
What's to amend the tentative budget to include signage at the library.
Okay, sir.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the signage at the library. All in favor? Opposed?
So with that, I will now turn it back over to Mr. Hoschel.
Thank you. I'll keep it brief. On the presentation, we kind of talked a lot about the budget currently. A lot of the stuff, there's a lot of information in this presentation. We spent a lot of time. I don't want to spend too much time. I just have some key points that I want to take away from this presentation. We already talked about how the overall budget this year is $116 million. That number will change based on the motions that were made tonight. I will bring back a final budget that includes those and a final budget number. So I don't have off the top of my head what that number is going to be. It looks like it's probably going to be upwards around the 118 million mark. So just keep that in mind. Probably 117 and a half probably, but I'll bring that number back in the final budget. You'll see in your packet, you have the state forms. Really, all I want to show you guys on the state forms is what I go and look at is that number. There's a lot of forms that go into, a lot of calculations with it. It's complicated, but that's the number that sticks out. On the bottom of the state form too, you'll see the expenditure limitation. Your budget is not your expenditure limitation. All of that is not included in your budget. I know that is kind of some confusion when we talk about expenditure limitation and what our expenditure limitation is, and then what our budget number is. Not everything that we budget goes towards our expenditure limitation. So you can see here I have a list of what is subject to the expenditure limitation versus what is not subject to the expenditure limitation. You can see grants and federal aid are not, debt service on voter approved bonds are not, that's your PSPRS bond. You can read the list there. All of those are not included in the expenditure limitation. So really when we talk about that, for us, our 127 million is what our expenditure limitation is this year. As that goes up with the calculation that takes place at the state level, what is subject, this is the list of what's subject and what's not subject. So moving on to what is included and what is subject to the expenditure limitation, of that 116 million, 82 million of that is subject to the expenditure limitation. So when you talk about our expenditure limitation being 127 million, only 82 million goes towards that. And that's if we spend all of our budget in a full year, which We don't. Typically, it's last year, our expenditure limitation, or for the audited financials, we get a sheet that's prepared by auditors, which is the report that we send to the Auditor General through the state. For the fiscal year 24, which was the last audit that we had done, our expenditure limitation was 121 million. We spent 42 million of our budget. So, and we budgeted 82 million, I think. So we spent 42 million of that 82 million, which went to our expenditure limitation of 120 million. So even though it may look like we get close, not all of what we budget is subject to that. I just want to make that clear. That's one of the points I wanted to make tonight is I know there's confusion about expenditure limitation and budget, and the two are not the same. This is last year, the current year budget. The big story here is capital. Really, that's our largest increase is that 13.4 million. That makes up a bulk of that. 8 million of that is vehicles. Some of those vehicles were approved tonight, vehicle purchases going into next year. So as we replace vehicles, those are large purchases as well as our capital. And that's really what's driving the increase year over year is those vehicle and capital increases and carryovers. You will see I did decrease contingency by 3 million this year, just because I felt that the use of it and then where it was budgeted is more appropriate now at 10 million. Here's the overall budget. You can see the enterprise funds make up a large portion of our 116 million at 52 million, or 45%. General fund is a smaller portion, and then you see the debt service, special funds, which are HERF, and the fleet, and then contingency. This is another way to look at it. Kind of, you can see that green bar. That's really the story, our capital. For the general fund, the large portion is capital. 9.1 million of that is personnel. And as we look at the chart going year over year, you can see O&M is a large portion of that. That is vehicle purchases and then your capital. Outside of your vehicle purchases and your capital, you're not seeing a lot of growth in any of these. And it's the same story as we go into enterprise funds. Capital and vehicle purchases are what are driving the year over year increases. So I won't take too much time because really that's the story is your vehicle purchases and your capital. Personnel and other O&M, purchase for resale, even debt, all of those are remaining pretty level or within the an acceptable margin of like 6% personnel growth year over year, even though revenue is growing higher than that. So I just want to, those are the points I want to make with this presentation. We already did quite a bit of talking, so I don't want to spend too much more time. So with that, we had some amendments. We've already made motions on them. So if council wants to, if they want to make an overall amendment with the motions, I don't know how we want to do that. They can pass the tentative budget with the amended motions or with the motions as amended, and then we'll read the resolution.
Did we forget something?
Did we forget something?
Yeah, did we? I'm asking.
I did. I don't believe we forgot something. I felt like we were pretty comprehensive.
I don't know if we forgot something.
Unless there's something you feel like I forgot, Vice Mayor.
No, I'm not. I'm not being an Arnold. I really want to know. Did we forget anything?
No, I believe that we covered a lot of or all of it. Actually, we covered all of what we needed to cover.
So I think when you vote at this point on the tentative budget, we had several items that were not included that we added. They included 1% COLA, signage for the library, improvements to the golf course entrance, facility maintenance, and then the tent for the golf course. With that list as the amendment, you can make a motion to pass the tentative budget with those amendments included.
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution R25-019, the fiscal year 2025-2026 tentative budget with approved amended motions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution R25-019. That's the tentative budget with additions. All in favor? Opposed?
This approves resolution number R25-019 with the amended, voted on and amended additions to the tentative budget, which include the 1% COLA, the golf course, the amendment to the tent structure for the golf course, the library signage, and the facility maintenance. And this is resolution of the mayor and city council of City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, setting forth a tentative budget and establishing the maximum budget amount for the City of Safford for fiscal year 2025-2026.
And that amount, just kind of back of the napkin, is about 458,000. So that's how much I have for what I will budget for those going into the final budget. So it will be 17.34.
Thank you. And we'll move on to item number 18, report on operational items. Morgan?
Good evening. Per council's request, I've prepared a water table overview presentation, and I've included a couple other operational items that I'd like to touch base on. So our first slide, if it wants to, there we go. This is the monthly overview. This overview is in the monthly report that you receive each month, and to kind of review of what this is showing you. We have 3 years worth of water table, and the top section represents the surface level. So the very top of that chart is representing surface, which is 0. And the lines are indicating the distance between the surface and where the water is. So I commonly use the analogy of dropping a rock. So if you were to drop a rock from 0, when you hit that bottom of the line, that's when you hit water. We have the 2013, and we keep that in there as a baseline, as 2013 was the year that we implemented restrictions. There were a couple things happening there where the water tables were lower, and then also Bonita Creek was struggling. So we usually like to keep that one in there just to show you where we're at. You can see the 2024 water tables were a little higher, and currently the 2025 are kind of breaching that 2013 level in certain areas. So the Morris 1 cluster and Morris 2, those are all kind of touching that 2023 or 2013, sorry. So those lines, they show you the distance, but it's just a line to nowhere. But so I wanted to show you what we look at. So the red line is the pump depth, and I'm using the wells that we use the most to show you kind of a seasonal cycle of what a water table does. And you can see that there's 2022 all the way to actually last month's water tables. And Morris 2, you can see how in the January, February timeframe, the water table is higher, and in the May, June, July, it's lower, and that's just because of usage. So we are pumping at that time, so there's a drawdown. You'll see that water table come down over the course of a few months, and then it'll come back up and recharge when we shut them off. So that red line is that pump depth, as I stated, and whenever it gets within about 10 feet of that pump depth, we really start watching the flow rate, because if it gets too close, you'll draw some air in and it'll start surging. At that point, we want to turn that well off and let it recharge, and then we can start it back up. So once we start getting closer to that red line, we really start watching it. But we log wells every single day that it runs. If it doesn't run in a month, we're still there at least once a month, and we exercise it. So there's an operator that goes there at least once a month. Kempton B is another site that we use heavily. As you can see, the pump depth is a lot lower than the Morris cluster between the distance between the water table and the actual pump depth. You can see that cycle again in the January to the July timeframe. It does go down, but then it does rebound. Clance is another location that we use pretty heavily, and the difference between the other locations and Clance is tied to the 12-inch line that is directly in line with Bonita Creek. And so Bonita Creek has, the flow rate has diminished slightly to where we have to manage how much comes out of Bonita Creek. And so we have throttled it for the last couple years. And you can see that in 2013, it doesn't really rebound till last month. I mean, there's a slow decline. And that's just because we've been running it since then to kind of help build back pressure into Bonita Creek. So this one is slightly different where there is no recharge just because we have had it on for so long. But as you can see, the pump depth is well below the water table level. This graph right here, I went through last year's monthly reports and I broke out the residential and commercial usage. So I wanted to show you the different types of usages throughout the year based on months. And so the purple block is residential and the yellow is commercial. And as you can see, the commercial really doesn't fluctuate throughout the year. It kind of stays about the same, but what really fluctuates is that residential usage in that May, June, July, and August timeframe. And historically, July and August is our highest demand months. So if we can make it past August, I start resting a little easier because I know we're on that downhill slide where we're kind of coming out of that. So those are the July and August timeframe where we're really looking at water tables and making sure that we have enough sources. And so that's what I wanted to cover on the water table and just kind of the usage. Another operational item that I wanted to cover was the backflow compliance. As you all know, that there was a notice that went out that there was violation on the backflow compliance from ADEQ. There was 301 privately owned backflows that were out of compliance that the state wanted us to mandate and get them and have them tested. And usually the testing is the responsibility of the business owner. And so the ADEQ, just to go down the line, ADEQ issued the violation for the deficiencies of passing the backflow test. And what they wanted was us to either have the backflow tested or terminate services. So that was our option to go by. So what we did was we worked with Aqua Backflow, which is our third-party consultant, or not necessarily consultant, but third-party database where they track all these. We initiated a certified letter that went out to the customer saying that if you don't get them tested, fines will be implemented. There was a lot of response from that. There were a lot of backflows tested because of that effort. However, there were some that were lagging. So there were fines that were issued to several businesses for several months, and we just weren't getting any we weren't getting any responses from them. So what the city decided to do is instead of going and turning people off, we contracted with 2 local backflow testing companies. They went out and tested the backflows. They invoiced us as the city, and then we billed the customer what it cost us to get that tested, and then also an administrative fee on top of it. So I'm happy to report that now all those backflows are in compliance. Moving forward, we will still continue to enforce the fines. If they become non-compliant again, we're going to keep on top of that. The other operational item I wanted to cover real quick was wastewater treatment plant maintenance. So as you can see on the right-hand side, there's an oxidation ditch that is out of service, and that was because there's been a lot of maintenance that has needed to be done throughout the years. The previous contractor was unable to do that, but Jacobs has successfully drained that ditch, made the repairs, and now it's back in service. So kind of a couple pictures I wanted to show you was there's a mixer that is missing. You can see that propeller type mechanism right there. There's a lot of rags that are hung up on that. What we call rags are probably wet wipes that people flush down and they get into our system and they hang on a lot of stuff. Well, there should be a second one to the right of that. Several years ago, that was pulled for maintenance items, and I'm talking like 10 years ago, and it was never able to be put back in because all this sedimentation had built up by the time they were ready to put it in. So that was one item we needed to install. There was also another, a baffle that was supposed to be in there that had been removed or deteriorated and broke that we needed to reinstall. and they were able to do that. So how we did that was we lowered a a skid steer into there, and the city of Safford had 3 employees on site that were assisting in this effort, and they did a great job. There was another item that was broken that once we drained it, we saw that has been repaired now. And this is kind of what the finished product looked like with there's a baffle at the top, which you can't really see what it is or tell what it is, but then that additional mixer that was supposed to be in there is now in there. So Jacobs did an excellent job taking that down, and I've been very happy with their services that they provided us. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Just curious if it made sense to just automatically plan on doing the backflow preventers and billing people a 1/12th of it over every month and to not get back out of compliance. Does it make sense to just make it part of the service?
Mayor Ortega and Councilmember McGoy, there are several, there's a ton of backflows, and a lot of the companies do a really good job. And I think as we update our database, because the issue that I found going through this exercise is we have 2 different databases that don't talk to each other, where we have the City of Safford business, where we know who needs to receive that letter, but the Aqua doesn't update unless we update it. So that's one thing I've changed, is that now we have a spreadsheet that we can email Aqua, and the people can get their notifications. And I think as we do that and we issue fines and people realize that we are watching, I think we would probably knock that down. And my plan is that if we find somebody 2-3 months in a row, then I would implement that testing and say, we are going to get it tested, and we'll charge you what it cost us and plus an admin fee. So as far as an overall service, I think it would be pretty extensive to do that, and we would just hit the ones that are non-compliant, a smaller number, in my opinion.
I always appreciate listening to the water updates and stuff. To me, it's the most important thing we got going. And keeping up on it with all the CIPs and all that, it's very important. And I always like to nurture that part of it.
I appreciate it. We are a unique system, and we're very fortunate of what we have. There's no other system that I've seen that has what we have. As far as Bonita Creek, it's been servicing us for almost 100 years now. As an update, we have tested 3 additional wells on the Sanchez Road that's been owned by the Clontz family. We're waiting on results, but they wanted us to come test the wells, and potentially maybe we can purchase something.
And is the skid closer?
We got pipe going into the ground, so crews are working on that, getting that all connected. But we do have a few months, and we're working on the bid docs for the electrical system to go in. But so now we're active on that CIP project.
I'm ready to go out there again and with you and maybe the rest to go see that in operation.
Yeah, once we get in operation, it'll definitely, we'll need to be trained on it. It's going to take us up into a water treatment grade 2 facility at that point. But so they'll come in and they'll show us how to manage that.
And I know you've been happy over the years with the sewer plant people that are working with you. So that's still good, go?
Oh yeah, that's I've been thinking about that for the last couple months, of the saying of you get what you pay for, and they were a little more expensive, but the amount of stress that we don't have to worry about because they're there, it's noticeable. So.
Well, okay. If next time maybe we can get some divers trained from the police department to help you with them propellers next time.
Mr. Lopez,
They just had an emergency thing. They could use some, diving training.
I wanted to agree with you as well, but only if the main road is open. I don't ever want to go out to Bonita Creek again on that other road.
You didn't have fun on that one?
No. The way back was fantastic. While we were there was fantastic.
Yep, no, then that's the stuff that we got to go through.
And when whoever has to do that on a regular basis,
Yeah, no,
They're
we
not
gotta,
paid
we gotta
enough.
be able to get to our stuff regardless, so. It was nice for you guys to be able to experience that.
It was, kinda.
Any other
Anybody else?
questions?
Thank you, Morgan.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, then we'll move on to item 19, announcement of current events. Anybody?
I want to thank Mr. Cook and his team and Mr. Barrano for the lights and the poles at the golf course. Good job. It's very lit up. Talked to the guys that night and said it looks good. So thank you.
Reminded me then, Luke, I know we did some improvements on the skeet range that, that club had been asking for quite some time, and I'm waiting to talk to them to see. I'm glad, thank you guys for getting on that.
And it was Mr. Cook and his crew, and I believe Mr. Henry was involved too, and they went out there very quickly and made the upgrades.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Okay, then we'll move, a request for future agenda items. Anybody?
God, we got golf.
Mayor, I just want to make one comment probably out of decorum, but I did want to thank this council for this year's budget process and previous ones. It's been pretty intense. The meetings have been very long. You have endured those meetings very well, and you have really been very supportive of staff initiatives. I know we've made a lot of changes over time, so I, for one, want to thank you all. I really appreciate your support in what we're trying to do, and so thank you.
Well, I'd just like to kind of add to that. I'd like to thank staff for the job that they are doing. I feel very confident that this city is going, we're moving, and we're going up. Everything's turning out good. So thank you, staff, for the fine work that you're doing. Anybody else? If not,
Mayor, I move that we convene an executive session after a 5-minute break.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session after a 5-minute break. All in favor?
A lot of Marines say that.
Everybody back? Okay,
Don't they? Is it?
we'll move on to, we're gonna close the executive session and reconvene into into the regular meeting. Item 24,
Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? We're adjourned.